Good evening to all of you. Hello, hello. Good to see some of you today on this lovely, evening for me, I suppose. Afternoon for you West Coasters, late afternoon. I don't know what you or early evening. I don't know. I guess pick your poison there on that one. Mr. Red Jack, again, of course, I'm sure you're gone right now, but have a nice shift, as I said earlier, and maybe catch it later on, man. Thank you, and I hope that you and your family are well too. I hope your mom's doing better now. Number one Marvel fan, hey, what's up? What is up? What is up? Kavi, I'm sure you're also gone, but yeah, no worries, dude. Like I said, have a good time tonight. Have a good dinner, and if we're still here, we'll maybe catch you later. And what's up, Mike? One of the best pieces. Yes, I don't even want to say his name because and you know what? I'll ask Jared if he knows. And maybe Mike, maybe you know. I don't know. I never did find out. I never spoke to him. So I always wanted to know how he pronounces his first name. So I never did find out. So I'd like to know if possible. Maybe we'll find it out for sure tonight. But yeah, that's killer for sure. And who else do we got? David, of course. What's up? G'day. Good to see you, sir. Good morning, of course. Good morning in Oz. Always a treat to see you here. Appreciate it. Good evening to you, Rickster. What is up, sir? And, of course, a lovely welcome to Jared. And John Nguyen. Yeah, what's up, sir? Salutations to you, of course. Good to see you. Oh, Karen from Karen's Pages. Good to see you, Karen. Hello. I hope you'll be sticking around at least a little bit tonight. And very lovely to see you. Everybody, again, go to, when you have a minute, Karen's Pages. That's actually Karen's new YouTube channel. And she is a comics and comic art collector, and doing pre-recorded content. So please be sure to check her out and subscribe and or hit the notification buttons and hit like on whatever video from her channel you may watch. It's fun stuff, especially her outtakes at the end of every video. Yeah, that's good for a few good laughs. And Karen will be, for those of you who don't already know, Karen will be a guest of mine in the not too distant future, sometime next month. So that'll be a lot of fun too. And what else we got here? Who else is in? Jason Ladwig, good evening to you, sir. What's good in Michigan? CJ, as always, evening to you. Whoa, the West Coasters in tonight. What's up, Ian? Good to see you, man. New haircut for me? I don't think so. I mean, I shaved like every week or two. I shave the sides and the back, but I mean, I do it myself. You know that, right? So, so there's nothing new about it. It's just freshly shaved earlier today. That's about it. My lovely wife, as always, thank you for the support, honey. Thank you very much. Yeah, so fresh, so clean. Yeah, you guys are funny. Oh, Carl, aloha, sir. So Carl wanted to quickly let you know, Hart, who doesn't seem to be here at the moment, and I don't know if he will be tonight, but Hart wants to reach out to you and ask you something. So is it possible? Could you reach out to me? Maybe here, let me show you, because I've done this a million times before, so I don't mind putting it here. Can you email me here, please, Carl, if you don't mind, just real quick, Rubén DaCollector, gmail.com. Just so I can get your email, and I want to put you in touch with Hart. He has something to ask you about Maui, so that would be of great help to him. And yes, that would be nice if you could do that. I appreciate that. Thank you in advance. Thank you, sir. Let us jump back real quick. Karen, my pleasure. Thank you, of course, as always, for your support, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And let's see, what else? What's good in Michigan? The Tigers? Maybe. Well, I'm hoping the Lions this year. Jason. Like a baby's bottom. Pretty much, man. Pretty much. What's up, Mikhail? How's it going, man? How you doing? Good to see you as always. Yeah, Sprague just great job on the vids. Ah, great, excellent. There you go. Some lovely feedback. Comic Art Boston, apologies. Always dropping in quickly to say hello. Wishing you a great show. Catch on rewind as you have to lately. That's no worries. Again, I hope you're back from your travels. If you are, lovely to see you as always, Comic Art Boston. If you are not back yet, well, safe travels. There we go. And wants to know where to find the Maui Wowie. I'm not sure what he wants, but no, man, no, it's not a mohawk. It's just I'm running out of hair, and it's just it's like it's all I got. I can't. There's not much I can do with it. That's pretty much it. But it's not getting tall. Same as last week. I would think maybe a week longer. I guess. Let's see. I think you meant hi cab, not bab. But Karen's outtakes, yeah. Did you watch them, Marcus? They're pretty funny, right? She doesn't take herself seriously, neither do I. That's why we can get along well. That's good. I like that. I like people who can laugh at themselves, So definitely a mohawk getting taller. Really? Okay, whatever, man. Okay, you guys, I'll take it. Everybody, please, let me say thank you, of course, as always, to you in the chat. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that, and I will get in touch later, or put you guys in touch later. Unless you never know, he may come in. Hart may come in later, and then maybe whatever. He might even sort of shout you out or whatever. But if he doesn't, I'll do it. So thank you, appreciate it, man. So thanks everybody for coming in as always, and thanks to you on Rewind, everybody. Thank you as well as usual. Can't do it without the people who come in live to the chat. But of course, I always really, really appreciate everybody who watches on their own time whenever you guys can. So I appreciate you guys as well, and gals as well. Karen tells me there's more than just one gal, and I believe it, but I want to see it. So if there's other gals out there watching, reach out at some point. Say hello, But that's it, everybody. Tonight we're going to have a nice, fun chat. Just shooting the breeze about the hobby. We haven't done one of these chats in quite some time. Without showing art at the same time. And so that's what we wanted to do. So let me quickly bring in my pal, Jared. What's up, Jared?
Hello, everybody. Hey, Ruben. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, believe me, my pleasure, man, my pleasure. So happy you could do it. Like I was telling people, actually, all in the description of the video and in my little advertisements, like on Instagram and whatnot, like, oh, my guest Jared's going to be on, and he was so enthusiastic to want to be on, and that just makes for a much more fun conversation, So super thrilled that you're excited to be on,
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure that when you said my name, it scared some people away, so that's good.
No, but I don't believe that. But whatever you want to say that, that's fine. That's fine. But it's fun. Like I said, just for those of you who are not aware, I did. See, these guys crack me up. I do not see gender. Well, I do. I distinguish. I don't know, but I'm good with everybody. And there you are. There you got Mikhail saying hello. Now everybody's coming to say hello. Of course, CJ, my wife.
That's very cool. Thank you.
Jared, the Rickster, and of course Karen. There we go.
I just saw Karen. I just saw one of Karen's videos literally yesterday for the first time. Good.
Oh, good. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Cool. There you go, Karen. You see, it's all one at a time, slowly but surely. That's how it all starts. So good. That's cool. I'm happy to hear that, man. So everybody, I just wanted to make it clear for those of you who aren't aware, just wanted to make it clear that yes, tonight we were just going to shoot the breeze. I had asked Jared if what his preference was, if he wanted to maybe do just talking, or if he maybe wanted to focus more on showing art, what have you. And he mentioned he was pretty sort of happy just shooting the breeze. He likes to talk about the hobby and stuff, and it had, like I said, it had been a while since we had done a hangout, a true hangout where it's just hanging out and talking. I mean, literally it's been months. since I did one without showing art as well. And I wanted to kind of get back to that. If for no other reason than just it kind of gives me a break on that week, where it allows me to not worry so much about, I got to make slides of the artwork for this coming week's show. And it's not that I do nothing. It's just, but I can use that time to make slides for future weeks in advance. That I'm trying to get ahead on my time, So that's what we're going to do tonight. But Jared, being the kick-ass dude that he is, also want to let you guys know that he also is cool with, I asked him when he said he was cool either way, but he's like, yeah, I'm good with chat, whatever, but he was cool either way. I said, you know what, maybe we should try, if you're up to it, something I've never done before is, what if you came by, we shoot the breeze, and you can always come back if you feel like it at some point down the road, and it'll be specifically for a show and tell episode. And he's like, whatever, sure, whatever. I was like, man, this guy's so easy. Like, I wish it was this easy to get people to come on the show and do whatever I want, So I appreciate that, Jared.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fun for me to kind of hang out and talk about. We're in the hobby because everybody's interested in the same things. We all like superheroes. We all like kind of that genre kind of entertainment. So there's so many different things to talk about. Art's just one of them. So it's fun for me to just meet everybody and hang out. Yeah, see, I am a man. That is lucky. my wife would agree with you. And then my 5 children. So yes.
No, but like I said, guys, hopefully you guys will be cool with the chatting. And like I said, when I used to do these shows, we used to do these shows together. And, when we started off, I don't know, the first 5 or 6 episodes, I mean, that's what it was. That was the intent. It was no showing art. It was just shooting the breeze, going off tangents and talking about whatever, sometimes it wasn't even about the hobby, whatever, but it's fun, just a bunch of friends hanging out. So I wanted to try to get back to doing that. And, but like I said, it'll be cool. I didn't want to miss the opportunity of actually showing some of your work because I love your collection, Jared. So that's why I was like, well, let me just ask anyways. Maybe he'll be willing to do both. Do this where we just shoot the breeze and come back at some point and we'll just focus on showing and focusing pieces on your collection. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to do that, man. It's really cool, man. I'm excited.
I'm horrible about updating my collection too. I have pieces that I've never put on there. I probably need to eventually at some point put some more up there.
Yeah, I mean, I you say you're horrible, but the truth is, a lot of the people in the hobby, even the active collectors, a lot of them, are what you say horrible, where they're like, whatever. I'm kind of busy, whatever. I got my work, my life, I can't be bothered to put things in my gallery or whatever. There's plenty of people, so it's not like you're the only one by any means,
No, but you know what? My thought is, and a friend of mine said this to me. He goes, Jared, you have these pieces that are wonderful. He goes, no one gets to see them. Part of the fun of it, there's part of the fun is that you're the one who has it, I guess, but that's not really the fun for me. I get just as much joy at looking at other people's collections and seeing these amazing pieces that I could never see in real life, and seeing the artistry and because I've only ever seen the published page with the colors on it. And sometimes the colors, frankly, don't do the artwork much justice.
Oh, gosh,
and so
no.
you get to see these other people's collections is wonderful. I mean, and so for me, it's almost like a museum. And I feel like I've got the art, and especially if they're a lovely piece, I should display it to let people know how great the art is.
Yeah. No, listen. I mean, I agree in principle, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I just happen to be in the same exact funk, if you will, that you are, where I have not. I typically would post like for years, once per week kind of thing, and post something, and so far in 2023, I have yet to post my first piece. I guess you just kind of get in a rut, and you're whatever. Yeah, you just let it go, and it's so whatever. It happens, and that's it. Eventually, you'll get back to doing it, and that'll be that, and you'll be back in the swing of things, But listen, it's not like there's not enough great art to look at on CAF. Right. Anyway, I mean, it's like if 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, a few random collectors slack off, as we'll say, on posting, their new acquisitions, I mean, it's not like that many people notice because there's just so much art being posted on a daily basis anyways,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But the thing, my thought is that you weed through, some of the pieces are great to look at. Even some of the lesser panel pages, they'll have one aspect to that page that's just a wonderful thing. But a lot of times if you have a splash page or cover, those are more meaningful and they are sometimes a better demonstration of the artist's work. And I would love to see that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally get that for sure. Yeah. My friend the Rickster, where is it? I'll post it. He just happens to mention that Wes Steffen posted his first piece of 2023 today. Exactly. I noticed that, and I was that reminded me. I was like, oh, wow. So even West hadn't been posting all year this year in this calendar year.
There's a good collection.
Yeah.
I like
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So there you go. I mean, it looks like quite a few of us have been slacking off in 2023 for some reason. I don't know why, But
it's been a weird year because we're just coming out of COVID and all that stuff. Kind of everybody's getting back to the swing of it, and it's almost like it did never even happen.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's kind of weird that way,
It is weird that way.
Yeah. Mike at NSN Art says that being slow to post is actually preferable to people who leave sold items on CAF all the time.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Jared? Does that bug you? Does it bug you? Like, when you see people that posted things in their CAF gallery for sale, and let's say it's sold.
Yeah.
But they leave it there, and somebody else, especially when somebody else owns it, and they put it in their gallery, but the original. Yes. Right? Like, isn't that really like kind of annoying, right? Like,
it's very annoying. But what annoys me more is when I've made an offer and they don't even tell me that it's been sold for a year and a half. They don't even bother responding back.
Oh, right.
That's one of those things. Yeah. But I do think that it's disrespectful to the guy who just bought it, because once it leaves your hands, once it leaves you, and a new custodian has taken it over, they get to display it how they want. Yeah. So I think that is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I just put some pieces on Heritage, and when those sell, they'll come out of my gallery.
Yeah. No, that's I'm all with that, man. I'm with you on that. Rick, yeah. Excuse me. Thank you. Yes. But whatever. You know what I meant. Is there somebody's? Oh, what? Jeff, what's up, Las Vegas? At a birthday. Oh, you're currently at a birthday graduation / holiday week. Oh yeah, right. Memorial Day. Dropping a like and we'll catch the rewind. Cheers all. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. That's what I love about these guys. They'll even make the effort to come in when they can't make it, just to say, I can't come in. And I tell them all the time, there's no need to, whatever. Like, you're busy. I get it, but it means a lot that they still make that. That's
those
so nice.
Common courtesies. We were talking about this before the show started. One of the reasons why I decided to do the show is I have met so many wonderful people in this hobby, people who share so many of the things that we like. And a lot of the reason why that I see the commonality is everybody's nice. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody encourages other collectors to do what they do and wants to talk about things that we all love. And that courtesy and respect is so lovely to be a part of. I just like that community aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the interesting thing is that we, and by we I mean the more active, socially active, collectors in the hobby, we are very much a small breed, if you will. I mean, in the sense that when you think about the fact that there's probably, I don't know, but thousands, I don't know how many, but thousands and thousands of collectors right in the hobby. But if you look at the social media aspect in terms of at least like YouTube live streaming type shows like this, generally the amount of people that show up to any type of show like this is never really more than in the dozens,
Yeah.
And then on Rewind, a few extra 100 more kind of thing, right? So really, we represent a very small percentage of the overall hobby. The one, those of us who want to be more active and talk to other collectors
But
online.
I think that's how new it is, because we are coming into a stage where you have your own show, Bill's got his show, and a few of the other guys have got shows that they do. But those are all relatively new within the last couple of years or most.
Exactly.
It takes a while to build an audience, number one, and for people to find you. And this is a hobby that is kind of underground, and it's becoming more and more popular. I mean, look at the growth of Heritage's values over the last 10 years.
Right.
I mean, it's just astronomical. You know, I was joking around with a friend of mine. I said, I could never afford my own collection today. Not even close.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, in all fairness, I think most collectors could say the same thing, right?
Of course. Yeah. Well, except for the guys who just got into it just now.
Well, exactly.
Other than them, yeah. But the guys who've been in it for a long time, you know, when we were originally doing it, you know, there was a listserv on Yahoo, I think, which is where people would post most of the time. And so you didn't see anything. They did have kind of a wonky place where you could post your art, but very few people used it. And that's why CAF started taking off. So this is a relatively new platform, and I think it's great. You know, it's just amazing. So yeah, I think it'll build over time as people get more and more into the hobby and see the benefits of it.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I hope so. You know, it's like I say, it's for me, it's personally speaking, it's at least with my channel, it's primarily a way for whoever wants to come in on a Sunday night, right, once a week, regularly, and just shoot the breeze. And I say that, you know, meaning even when we're doing like a show and tell episode, yes, we're going to show a lot of art, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of what we do here and the primary reason why my shows, every episode of whatever kind of show I'm doing goes as long as they do, like 3 hours, pretty much verging on 3 hours on average, is because we're all talking. It's not just me and you like now, Jared, where it's like, oh, you and me I'm going to interview you. And all these people in the audience are just going to sit there captively and listen or whatever, you know, like, as you've seen, like I talk to everybody. I want them to be involved and get a sense of community where it's about all of us. You know what I mean? And that's kind of why I want to do it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want to do it any other way, you know, like.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show. And the other thing is, you know, I look at one of the things that I've always, if I could throw something out, I will. I'm wondering how long with the AI, all these other stuff, and a lot of artists going to digital, how long we're going to have originals that we're going to have. I mean, I know a lot of artists who I know personally are moving more and more towards the digital platform. They like it a lot because when they make a mistake, they don't have to erase it or whatever. They can just and make it everything perfect all the time. And they can get the work, generate the work much, much faster. So I'm wondering how long, you know, I think there'll always be guys who want to produce original artwork because it's such a skill and it's such a wonderful thing to do. Like people make watches now. You could easily go out and buy, right now I have a Garmin watch that can do 10 times more than my, you know, one of my other mechanical watches, but it is not nearly as beautiful and not nearly as wonderful, and the skill and craft isn't as much. So I think there's always a place for it, but I do think about it.
Yeah. Well, my only, because I know very little so far, because it's only like in the last few months that it's suddenly, this whole AI thing started exploding, and, you know, the only thing I'll say about it in terms of, insofar as art, or insofar as our hobby is concerned, right, the business of comic book creation, I just want to say, given what I've seen, and what I mean by that is the majority of what I've seen in terms of feedback from actual artists who work in this hobby, this industry, is been patently negative. It's been so anti-AI, right? So I believe, my belief, and look, it's like I said, it's very new, and that can change over the long term. But right now, I firmly am of the belief it's never going to take over this industry. I don't know about anything else, but comics, I just don't think. I think there's such a backlash, and I believe that the fans also would create a massive backlash if they were suddenly told that by a publisher, look, our first AI created comic book I honestly think the news would be taken with such disdain and just and negativity. That's what I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I believe. And I don't think this hobby, the industry, I don't think it's in danger of being, the artist being replaced by the AI. It could change, like I said, but that's my current feeling, my gut feeling.
I will tell you, I know well, at least in book publishing, because I have clients that I represent who have called me and their contracts were canceled because now this is not a comic book, this is a book, but the AI could just create the image for the front of the book. So it is happening. Yeah, and the truth is that we make up the most minor, tiny little grain of sand on a full beach of people whose voices will be arguing against it because we love the artistry and if you can do most of the people just want to read a comic book. Right. They're not vested in the artist or even the writer. They don't even probably barely know who they are. And so, certainly there's guys like us who are older and appreciate the story and follow the artists and the writers because they're terrific. But I don't know. I go back and forth on it all the time. The people who are selling the AP. I know there was just a discussion on Facebook about people selling these digital APs for thousands of dollars, and what the thoughts were, whether or not they're just glorified prints or whether they actually have some type of artistic merit and value that warrants a price like that. So
right, you're referring to those mono prints, the ones that they print out and say it's one.
And I don't, for me, they're not for me, but that doesn't mean that lots of people buy G Clays and lots of people buy prints. And that's what they enjoy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's terrific, and it gives them the ability to hang something that they enjoy or have something that they enjoy. So I don't want to criticize it. It's just not something that I believe is for me that I would want to invest in.
That's what I've said. We've talked about this on more than one of my shows. So I'm with you. I absolutely don't have any interest in getting into that. Never will. But that's not to say that a market can't grow from these products at some point and prove us wrong and whatever. I mean, it'll never change my mind.
People are buying NFTs. So there you go.
Yeah, you never know, right? But then again, even that was, you think about it, did it really go anywhere? I mean, it was sort of all the rage in the news for a little while. Then it never really, it's not like it took widespread hold of certainly not our hobby or whatever, right? So
no, but what fascinates me is, the guy sold, I think it was 10 or 20 or $30 million NFT, and there's been other things that were, it became a multi-million-dollar, if not $1 billion industry. I don't know if it still is. I don't follow it, so I don't know. But when it was in the news, they were talking about it. And for me, again, it's like buying a CD of some artist that you like that printed a million of them, or the Jim Lee X-Men one, or there's a million of the comic books out there, and you're going, I'm not seeing the value here, but it is.
No, that's it. That's exactly it. So it's just move along. I just ignore it, right? I just ignore it like it doesn't exist. Whatever.
But you don't want to be caught too much ignoring things like this because maybe it is something, and it's not something for me. But that's the problem.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Jared, is when it comes to weird kind of stuff like that where we don't see the value in it, right? Yeah. And we know that we ourselves will never see the value in it. It's like I would rather ignore it, because let's face it, you can ignore it completely, because if what you said comes to pass and it suddenly, something does become of it, believe me, we're going to be made aware of it, right? Yeah. We're not going to continue to be like in the closet and completely hidden from it, right? We'll find out, right? We'll hear. So I figure for now, though, I don't want to hear anything about it. Ignore.
I'll agree with you, and I'll just say one last thing, because I know I'm probably boring people, but it's the same thing with cryptocurrency, right? And this is my limited old way of thinking, which is I understand exactly what it is. I know what cryptocurrency is. I understand it philosophically, fundamentally. I understand the benefit of it, but I still don't see the value of it. But still, it trades for a lot of money, and a lot of people have made a lot of money in it. And there's various types of Bitcoins out there, or different cryptocurrencies, I should say. And so I don't want to be so old. I always remember when I was younger, my sister was making fun of my dad, just teasing him because he wore a tie that you could land a plane on. It was so wide, and he goes, "This is still popular." And he was teasing her back, and it was not popular at all. It looked awful. And he's like, "Yeah, no, this is still cool," and stuff like this. And you're going, I don't want to be locked in a mindset where I can't advance my thinking enough to appreciate something I should get. Like, I don't want to go, I don't know how to use a computer, and I'm not going to try to use a computer because I'm too old. No. That's not it.
Yeah, I get it. And this is why I, initially right at the very onset with the monoprint idea, I blew it off as fast as you can, blew it off, right? But then very quickly sort of realized, well, okay, it's not like it's the first time in history that prints exist. So I'm willing to keep the mind open only from the standpoint of what you just said, that it certainly is possible that at some point in the future it could become a viable market, right? So I'm open to that. Yeah. Again, with the understanding though that I can't see myself ever being interested, no matter how big that market grows. Yeah. It's just not for me, But yeah,
I totally get it. Yeah, but as any business, you run a business, I run a business, and so you always have to think: is that a form of currency that I could or should be accepting? That's the other part of this too. Is that people want to pay me sometimes, and I said no, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Scott's saying, right? He agrees with Jared. You have to keep an eye on the stuff. Pretending it doesn't exist isn't a strategy.
I think Scott's right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. What's up, Asian Funk? Good to see you, dude. And hello to you, of course. I know I popped it on the screen earlier, but Dino, good to see you, Dino. I hope you're still here. And let me go back here because real quick, where is that comment? Okay, so here's Dino. Wanted to welcome you.
Dino.
I also wanted to bring up Carl. So Carl brought something up and just wanted to know, threw out a question. So for all of us, for everyone, how do you feel when the seller has pages upon pages for sale and it's all please inquire for prices? So irritating. Yeah.
I mean, totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to say about that. Obviously, I don't know anybody in this hobby who has ever said to me, man, Ruben, don't you just love when guys just like they want you to inquire about the price? Right.
Well, there's a famous. I don't want to say their name. Famous dealers who I know that if I said their name, everybody would know they are. Who make a habit of doing exactly that. And,
well, I'm sure that's who Carl's probably referring to. I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it, but I, through personal experience, because it's like this, they will change the price depending on if they've looked at your calf gallery,
right?
Things like this. So I've had friends who I know who inquired about a piece within a day of me inquiring about it, and they happen to have some extremely nice pieces in their collection, much nicer than mine, and the price they got was much higher than the price that they sent to me, which was still inflated. So
yeah, absolutely. Mike NSN Art says, well, he's telling Carl in response, please inquire is my second pet peeve. I'll pass on pieces with no listed price. Me too. As a budget collector, I need to know ahead of time when you don't know if a piece is 1,000 or 10,000. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what we were talking about before is budget. Part of the hobby is trying to acquire a piece that you love within your budget. And, that's the tab we were talking about. That's the tap dance that you have to do, which is if I really, really love it, I'm willing to offer a little bit more than maybe just so I can get it. But I've got to be careful because I can't step too far out of a budget I've set for myself or really overpay. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the collectability of it. If you vastly overpay for a piece, you're never going to recoup your investment. But I don't look at it. But at the same time, if you love it that much, maybe it's worth that to you. And you should get it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's always the hardest decision to make.
Yeah. Well said,
especially when you're bidding against somebody. Oh, that's horrible. I'll just go a little bit more. I'll just go just a little bit more. Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. So Asian Funk says that you can hold off as long as you want, but at some point, a monoprint is going to pop up in your collection if you want that piece. You know what? I don't agree with that. What do you say, Jared?
I don't. And I'll tell you what. I just saw a piece, and I'm not going to tell you who the artist was or who's selling it. It was a beautiful Batman piece, and I mean,
Okay.
Batman's one of my favorite ones.
And I know you're a Batman guy, yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved it. And I thought it was terrific. And it took me a second to figure out that it was a mono print, and I was like, no. I love the image, but it's just like, I mean, it's like owning a reproduction of the Mona Lisa or any other famous artwork that you can think of. Yeah, that's great, but it's at the end of the day, it's not original. They can make a million of them, and that's not what makes part of this special for me. And collectible, that adds the word collectible in it, is that it is the only one that will ever be. It only can be. And a mono print, despite they're saying mono print,
right?
It's the print part that's a problem. And I'll tell you a quick story. So years ago, I bought a reproduction that Neil Adams had done of a very famous cover that he had done, Batman, and it was the only one he'd ever done. And I was talking to Neil about it, and I said, Neil, I'm willing to buy this, and I was negotiating with him. And if most people probably haven't talked to Neil Adams, but Neil was an extremely smart, very sharp guy. And I said, look, I want to get this, but you could just redo this again. He goes, Jared, I did that piece 20 years ago. He goes, I'm probably not going to do it, but if I want to do another one, you can't stop me. Mm-hmm. And I said, you're right. I can't. I go, but I love it, and you drew it, so I want it. So in that case, I was willing to pay money for a recreation by Neil Adams of a very famous piece that he had done. And he never did do another. So I was lucky. But at the end of the day, that's when I think you can get a recreation. To me, going to somebody, and I remember, oh my gosh, I can't remember whose collection it was doing the 1 minute later. He had the 1 minute later.
Yes.
What a great thing. He had some phenomenal artists do some phenomenal pieces like that. I love that stuff. I thought that was such a great idea to have these people do something that was kind of the next step. It wasn't the original. Sometimes it was, honestly, some of the pieces were better than the original covers. And I thought those were great ideas. In that instance, it's not published, but I still think it's a really cool idea. And those are pieces that have value to them because they're done so well and of something that's very interesting.
Right. Yeah, but kind of, on that whole mono print thing, it's like what you were saying. For me, it's you focus on the word print because, and again, this topic having come up on my channel many times before. What I always say is, yes, for now it may be one of one, but the fact that is a print and not, right? It's the fact that it's a print. The fact that it's a print means that it can always in the future be printed again. Should any reason, if the artist, I don't know, falls on hard times, and oh my God, he remembers that print he sold, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago. Oh my God, it sold quickly. Multiple people wanted it, so maybe I can just print another one of those and nobody will notice. You just don't know, right?
Well, I'll give you a great example. So years ago, do you remember the Warner Brothers stores? So Alex Ross and all that, they would hire artists. They would do these limited edition prints or G-clays on canvas or whatever they were. And that was my stepping stone to get into original artwork. As I started off buying Batman the Animated Series had come out. I loved that series. Warner Brothers opened up. They had cells available. I started buying those, and they were getting prints of artwork. And I frankly didn't even really. It never occurred to me, funny enough, that comic books were drawn. I never thought, oh, you can go out and buy a page from something like this. It just didn't occur to me. And I was in a store and I saw this card set, and Dave Dorman had done this beautiful Batman that I own now, this Batman Gotham piece. And I just fell in love with that piece. It was just a card. And I was like, God, somebody painted that. It just occurred to me right there. Somebody painted that. That means there's something out there like that. And anyway, the bottom line is that I went, I started buying some of the prints and some of the G-clays on canvas, and now they're being reprinted again. The pieces that Warner Brothers had a limited edition of are being put out in a bigger size, in terms of size, being reprinted in either on paper now or on G-clay, or they're the exact same thing, but now they've made them bigger or they've made them smaller in size. And they're saying, oh, well, it's different because it's this. Or you can see behind me, I collect comic book statues. And some of these comic book statue companies will say, oh, it's a limited edition run of this, and then they'll come out with it in a different color. It's the exact same statue with a different paint job. Right. And it kills people. They'll do a Batman who's blue and then a Batman who's black, and you're going, really? Yeah. And I think it's unfair to the collectors to do that. So I think the exact same thing about the monoprints. At some point, to your point, they'll get desperate for money and they'll say, well, we know we said it was a monoprint, but this one's going to have a remark on it.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
We're going to add some color to it. We'll have a different border. You know, they'll do something to distinguish it, but at the end of the day, it's the exact same piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a slap in the face.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I couldn't say it better. You said it all there, man. Look, JC says, hey, JC, I can make a monoprint at home any day.
That's right.
Yeah, if you got a good printer, you absolutely can. That's the crazy thing, right? It's like, yeah, I'll make it myself. Why would I pay you $1,500? Whatever, you know.
I just don't get it. But somebody's doing it. You know, I always joke around. It's the same thing as when you get those emails of, hey, look, Africa needs money, and it's a Nigerian prince, and he wants to show money. Somebody's falling for that scam.
Somebody is, yeah.
Or they would stop doing it.
Yeah, I know. Well, because it's a numbers game, right? In the Nigerian prince scam, those kinds of things. Yeah, it's a numbers game because okay, maybe it's only one out of every multiple million that will fall for it, right? But that's the whole game. Okay, so if they know that, they're like, okay, but let's just buy emails into the millions of emails, right? And the more we send out, the more people will fall for it, because greed ultimately is a sort of natural human emotion that for some people they just can't resist, and they want to believe so badly that it's true just because the greed is wanting them to make it true, and
TJ said exactly that. He goes, they'll just change the night sky on the Batman, and I totally agree with that. But but to be fair, it's almost no different in a way from trading cards, from baseball cards where they have a chase card in a pack of every 2,000 cards or something like this.
Yeah,
it'll go to that at some point. There'll be something like this where, look, you pay an extra X number of dollars, and we'll do a color mono print that'll never be reprinted. It'll be the only one of that, and da-da-da-da. That's what they'll do, something like that. They'll do some limited edition stuff.
Absolutely. And Jared, check out who popped in here.
Oh, look at that. Hello, that's my brother.
Oh, okay.
Hello to my brother and my nephews, Ezra and Isaiah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Lovely to see you guys. Thank you for coming in to support your bro.
Walter, like and subscribe.
Well, no, actually, Walter, I always tell people on my channel, unless you plan on coming back to actually watch stuff, which I don't think you will, I would say don't subscribe.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's fair enough, right? I think I'm just being honest. Yeah, why bother?
He and I, he grew up with me, and so he's a huge comic book superhero guy too. He just doesn't collect the artwork like I do.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good to see you come in, Walter. That's very awesome. I did want to go up, and because I skipped over a few, and hopefully you guys and gals don't you realize that I'm not. It's very rare that I skip your comments. So I did want to say, okay. So Karen says, if I have to inquire, I probably can't afford it. But I just want to say, Karen, see, I don't like that. Okay, because a lot. How do I say this? There have been people in the hobby who, it's very rare, few and far between anyways, whatever, but there have been people in the hobby, it hasn't happened to me, but it happened to people that I know who would go to a convention and they're set up at a con selling artwork. And my friends, will say, like they ask, well, like there has no price. Hey, how much can you just tell me what the prices on these things are? And they've been told pretty much, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. And it's like, you smug bastard. Like, how dare you? How you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, like, yeah. I'm so happy that nobody ever said that to my face, because like there would have been a massive scene, because like, don't ever disrespect me like that. Like, what are you talking about? You can't afford it because you have to ask? What an idiotic comment that is, It's
ridiculous.
It's
I had the opposite situation happen, and I changed. So I go to Comic-Con every year in San Diego, and I had a nice watch on. I had a Breitling on, and I'm not going to say the dealer because I actually like it. And I was walking in, and it was one of the very first times I'd ever met him. This is many, many years ago. He goes, "Let him through. He's wearing a Breitling."
He said what?
He said, "Let him through. He's wearing a Breitling watch. Let him through." And I thought that was, not only did I think it was disrespectful to everybody who was looking at the artwork.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, can I come see this piece? And then he was like, let him through. He's wearing a bright. And I thought, it's disrespectful to me because now I know he's looking at my watch thinking this guy's going to pay more or pay something,
Right,
you know,
right.
the exact opposite situation. But it was so disrespectful. And I like the guy. He's not, he and I have become friends and have actually told him that story. And he's like, oh, you know, I should not have said that. You're exactly right. If I told you who it was, I will tell you privately because he's not embarrassed by the story. But if I told you who it was, you would know exactly that's true. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. So that's, you know, shit like that. You can't be doing that, man. Don't think you're better than people.
It's disrespectful to everyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm just I'm just a checkbook to you. And I want to feel like I have a relationship with, I bought lots of pieces from you. I love the fact that you're always nice and respond to me and da-da-da. And I like having that relationship. It's like walking in the bar and everybody yell Norm, you know, cheer. It's lovely to have that kind of feeling where you know what I like and I feel like I can trust you. But when you see that, that's not cool.
No, exactly. It's just, it's about respect. It's just like, forget the hobby. It's just in general, in life in general. Exactly. Have respect for other people. That's it. Like, you know, be to others the way that you would want them to be to you. And that's it. So, yeah.
And that's why I respond to anybody who ever sends me a comment. I never know who's going to be my next friend. You know? One of my really good friends now is somebody who solicited to buy a piece of mine from CAF. We've met up 7 years now at Comic-Con, and I love the guy. He's terrific.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You're very, very good friends now.
I would have to guess, though, not to guess who it is, but I would have to guess that the reason you became friends is because when he contacted you through CAF to inquire about a piece, he probably inquired with an offer, an actual offer.
Yes.
Yeah. You see?
That's true. It says it in my CAF gallery. Please don't contact me just to see what I'll sell you a piece for. But if people do, I get it. They don't always read everything. And if they do that, I still want to be respectful. And even if they make me, like we talked about before, this crazy, stupid low offer, I respect that they are hoping to get a deal. And I respect that they, you know, hey, look, if you don't try, you never know. So I totally get that idea too. But at the same time, I want to make friends and I don't want people to get upset. And, you know, and I'll tell you who was George. He just had a baby. And so nicest guy, terrific guy. And once you get into the collector community, even if you guys like the same thing, he'll call me up and like I happen to love Black Bolt. So he'll say, Jared, this Black Bolt piece is up and I won't have seen it. And that's one of the beautiful things about the hobby and having friends who are in it is that they'll direct you to pieces you wouldn't have seen before. Or they'll say, hey, look, this guy has this and I think he'd be willing to be making an offer because I was talking to him about something else. You know, that is what makes the community so fun. And I have a rule that if somebody contacts me to ask me a question, because that's the other thing, because these are the only one that exists of something, sometimes you don't know what the price it should be.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of estimating it back on what other deals have happened in the past, but you don't really know. Even me, you know, who's been in it for a long time, I have no idea on some pieces. I'll call it buddies of mine. And our deal is if I call you to ask you a question about a piece, it's hands off to the guy you called about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the way we work, and I've never violated that rule. Sometimes I've wanted to, but I've never done it.
Oh, got you. Yeah, somebody in regards to the, you know, please inquire thing, Marcus says that he uses a burner account to inquire. He often uses Rubén the Buyer.
I have to say, I get so much joy out of seeing what Marcus posts on people's CAF galleries.
Oh yeah,
Marcus, you are a treasure. Thank you so much for all the comments you made on my pieces and on all the pieces you do. It's always a joy to see what you write.
There you go, Marcus. There you go. Some kudos to you, brother.
Yeah,
that's great. And you know what's funny? I got to say about Marcus and his comments, man. Like, I really, I think I always thought people were like me when I say I love music. And you know, he's always you know doing these like sort of weird allizations of songs.
Yeah.
And first of all, the reason I really love them is because when I was like in my late teens to early 20s, I used to, like pre-internet, I used to do that myself just for fun on my free time, right? I'd be jotting down crazy funny lyrics or whatever and just changing all the lyrics to my favorite songs. And I wish I still had those written down lyrics, but you know, they went the way of the dodo. Who knows where? The garbage somewhere, you know. And so for that reason, it's like there's a kinship there just for that reason. But then what I'm really shocked about is that every time Marcus does a song, I'm like, okay, oh, excellent, the song. The first thing I do is I go to the link that he puts in the song, the hyperlink. I open it, right? I open it in a different window. And then, okay, press play. And then I go back to the other window. So as the music starts to play, I can follow along. I do it all the time. And I'm always shocked at like the fact that for most of his songs, when I look, I'm like one of only 2 people in most cases who hit the like. And on rare occasions, I see 3, 4, 5, or 6, but rare. Most of the time, there's like 2 or 3. I'm like, does nobody like music? Like, I don't get it. Like, what? I don't like this. Is hilarious. I love it.
I'm totally guilty of that. Part of it is that the like button is somewhat new, and I keep forgetting to click it on stuff, and I'm getting into the habit of doing it now. I am, and so I should be liking more of the stuff. Right. I think that's a good tip. Thank you.
Yeah. That's
so what kind of music? So since you've totally veered off the path. What kind of music do you like? Because I love music.
I'm honestly, I'm all over the place. So I could be listening to the first Josh Groban album 1 minute, and when it comes to an end, System of a Down comes on, and I'll listen to like 3 of their albums. Then I could easily jump to like some like late 80s, early 90s dance music or rap. Then I can jump to like 70s singers and songwriters, 60s Motown or classic 60s rock. I'm gonna go see The Cure with my family next month. So if that tells you, so
good for you. I have buddies who just went to go see it. I just went to go see Crowded House. They were here, a very small venue, and surprised. But I'm a huge fan of. They were Split It. Obviously, he came from Split Ends. Exactly. I love Split Ends, and I love Crowded House and stuff like this. So I was like, going, God, I know they haven't had an album out in forever, and everybody there looked like me. Everybody there was all gray and old. I look like crap, but it was so fun. They put on a surprisingly fantastic show. But I saw The Cure back in the late 80s, early 90s, and
that was the time. That was the time, right? I mean, look, but that's the thing, right? Like, that's the one thing I regret. I mean, mind you, I can't really say I regret it because in my younger years, I mean, I either couldn't afford it or if I had the money, I was still like, okay, concert or a bunch of comics. I'll take the comics. And that's who I was.
Every day.
So,
every day.
Yeah.
Well, concerts were $12. If they were expensive, they were a $25 concert, $20 concert. Now, $350 for a seat. I mean, it's completely insane. So no, they price a lot of people out of the market. It's crazy.
That's exactly it. And now you got all those bands that were around since, let's say, the 70s. Well, God, in the case of the Rolling Stones, I mean, Christ, they're like 80 years old, and I can't believe they're still rocking like crazy, right? But yeah, you got all these other bands that have been around since at least, let's say, the 80s or 70s. What we call now the nostalgia acts, right? It's all about, right? Most of the bands that don't really put out new music, but they just tour to make a living, right? Yeah. It's fun because for me, I think like it's an opportunity to see all the bands who I never could afford to see back in the day when they were, younger or whatever. And I get a chance now. So yeah, would I love to have seen The Cure when you saw them? Yes. Do I find it difficult to look at Robert Smith now because he just physically doesn't look like he's aged?
I know, it's so sad.
I have a, it's kind of like, like to look at him, it's like it hurts, but but I mean, it hurts in a way that like I feel bad for, like he looks bloated, like it doesn't.
Well, he looks like I mean, come on, dude. It's not the 80s. I don't look like I'm in the 80s anymore.
Right, with the hair, right?
Change. Yeah. Move a little bit with the times. And I get it if people want to see, but it's almost worse because if he had just changed his look to kind of update himself, I don't think it would be as obvious that he's so old or older that, but he tries to look exactly like he did back then, and it's just not going to work for him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Now, I will say that in preparation and excitement for going to see the concert next month, I just a few days ago, I right here on YouTube, I ended up watching a Cure concert that somebody had recorded from, I don't know, not even 2 weeks ago, in Houston, Texas. And it was fantastic. So his voice is still beautiful. He still has that beauty. Like, so his voice, unlike some guys, some frontmen whose voice has gone downhill, he still has it. So
Vince Neil from Motley Crue. I just was watching a video of him last night.
Oh, yeah,
I went to go see Shout at the Devil tour.
Oh,
when they came out, Motley Crue Shout, when they were just breaking big. And that's in the early 80s. And they were, that's when they were gigantic, and every band was a hair band back then. And it was so popular. And I just heard Vince Neil sing. It was awful.
No, it was.
But then the flip side of it, I went to go see Duran Duran a few weeks ago. About a year ago, and phenomenal. I could not believe how good they were.
Yeah,
and I was pretty close. And so Simon Le Bon was really singing. He hit all the notes right. Everybody's playing their instruments really, really, really well. I mean, just terrific guy. And the show was really, really good. And a friend of mine just said, tell you that one of my favorite songs is Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails.
So I listen to everything too. Yeah. There's nothing that's off the. I will listen to old music, new music, everything.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Because do you remember? You remember back like around 1982, 83, when you were getting into Motley? That's when I was getting into Motley Crue, the Shout at the Devil tour, right? And I remember at the time, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden were becoming really big, and there was this whole like a heavy metal resurgence or whatever, like it was really coming up at the time. And back then, at least where I live, I'm sure it must have been the same everywhere. It was like, well, you would see these guys walking around and they'd be wearing like, I don't know, an Ozzy Osbourne or again, like a heavy metal cap or T-shirt or whatever. Yeah. And if you ever talk to these people and you spoke about music, you would find out quickly all they ever listened to was heavy metal. It's like they knew nothing and cared nothing about anything else. It was weird. Right. I was like, how is that possible? Well,
it's the same thing. And to me, that's a shame, because when I grew up, you had kind of cliques of people the same way, and you'd have the people who listened to punk music, the people who listened to new age, like Madonna and that kind of group, and Duran Duran and that kind of whole kind of genre of music. Then you had the people who listened to country music, and they wore cowboy hats and the belts and the boots and the whole package, and they didn't listen. All those people only listened to what they listened to. And I was never like that. I listened to everything. I listened to country music. I listened to Duran Duran. I would listen to, all kinds of, and part of that's my mother was a huge music fan. So I was introduced, and I was just literally talking about this today. I would listen to Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, all the people, the Everly Brothers. And I grew up with all these great musical foundation for rock and roll and musicality. And I just love it. I one of my favorite joys in this world, in addition to collecting artwork, is listening to music. I wish I could sing or play something, but I can't.
Yeah, likewise.
Definitely air guitar pretty good. So that's always good. And I can sing along, but no one should hear me.
Yeah. I've done a few little singing things myself. It's horrific, but I'm like, I mean, here on my show, I'm like, you know what? It's my show. I'll do what I want, right?
Free game, go for it. Like I told you, I know this is the only time I'm ever going to have any kind of audience, so I'm trying to keep it kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to alienate you by singing.
Well, my thing is like, if I start singing a couple of notes, a couple of lines of a song or whatever, I'll quickly see if the audience starts dropping off because you can see it, right? So, if it happens, then maybe I'll learn my lesson, or maymaybe not. Maybe I'll just do it. I'll double down and do it again.
Yeah, I totally get it. I understand that completely. But I think that's the other thing that's come back from COVID was going to concerts. That was a joy that I missed a lot. There's something about sharing that experience with a lot of people. It's like going to see a movie. I can watch anything I want. I have a home theater. I can watch anything I want in the luxury of my own home and pause it whenever I want. Because now I'm old and I need to go to the bathroom all the time. But that isn't as fun as being in a crowd with a movie and having something amazing happen in the movie and everybody gasps or cheers or whatever it is. That is fun. There's something about that community of everybody sharing that experience at the same time that makes it so great. And having everybody around you dancing and everybody around you singing the song together, that's phenomenal. I miss that part of life.
Yeah. That's
so
really
it is
cool.
fun.
It's cool that you're going back now and going out there, getting out there, seeing concerts again, right? So that's really cool. Yeah, and I'm also kind of wanting to do that more again too. So hopefully get that opportunity to keep doing that and make it a point to do it, because often it's been my fault over the years. It's like, oh, I know they're coming through or passing through on the tour, but I don't know. You just kind of like, oh, whatever, yeah, and nah, man, I should just not take it for granted that, hey, because you never know, they may eventually, a lot of the nostalgia acts may not pass through again if they ultimately retire. Like, I mean, we all know that musical acts like to retire.
Well, the problem is as I've gotten older, there was acts that I probably would not have gone to go see that now as I've gotten older, I really appreciate that they were great.
You appreciate them more. Yeah.
I could have gone to see George Michael before he passed
away. Me too. Oh.
See David Bowie before he passed away. You know, now obviously Tina Turner died. I probably would not have gone to go see Tina Turner, but at the same time, the fact that these artists that I grew up with are at the age now where, I mean, it's hard for me to kind of think about it that, I was a teenager or in my early 20s and now they're 80. Some of these people are in their 70s and 80s, like the Rolling Stones. I saw them about 15 years ago or so, and I could not believe Mick Jagger was in his late 60s or 70s, maybe early 70s then. Late 60s. Yeah, it had to be mid or late 60s. And he's running up and down the stage for the entire concert. He never stopped. Dancing, running, the whole thing. I could not believe it. I mean, the guy, I don't know if it's the drugs that he took that preserved him or what. Jeez. He was amazing.
I know.
I couldn't believe it.
I know. It's crazy. I know. Yeah. And by the way, just in case any Rolling Stones fans out there, just last night I was watching this 14.5-minute video, I think it was, of, I can't believe this stuff exists. It's like so amazing, the internet, because, this is one of the reasons why the internet's amazing. Rolling Stones footage, about 15 minutes long, of the Stones in a studio just trying to lay down little licks and riffs for Sympathy for the Devil.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally, like they haven't figured out the song yet. They haven't figured out how they want it to go, Jagger has the lyrics, but they don't know how the instrumentation's all going to go. They're all trying. And I'm like, I can't believe this footage exists. It's, man, to see the process come together on such a famous song, like, wow. So amazing.
Just wanted to put that out there. Peter Jackson just did with the Beatles. He came out with that special. To be fair, the Beatles, I love the Beatles, are my favorite band. And that was a difficult thing to watch because it was kind of boring. But to watch their process, like they're kind of how they fill in the words because they haven't come up with the words yet, or they choose different words. They know that they're going to fill in later just to kind of make the song to kind of work on the tune. And then they'll fill in the lyrics later, or vice versa. They'll get the lyrics. They're trying to match the music to the lyric. And so it's amazing to see that process. I thought that was really, really interesting. I would love to have seen, you have to send me that link for the Rolling Stones. I'd like to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll do it after the show. Mikhail. So Axl sounds even worse than he looks. He can't. Yeah, he just lost it. He cannot hit those notes. He can scream certain things, but those beautiful high notes that he used to be able to, like, it's gone. It's gone. He has to do. Yeah, he has to do different things so he doesn't. Yeah. So yeah. Thankfully, that's another band. I thought, to me, they were like the late '80s. They were like the new Rolling Stones for the late 80s, so love them. Luckily, I did see them in '92. Whatever, they screwed us and he played only a few songs. This was when they were touring with Metallica, and so here in Montreal, Metallica pyrotechnics went off. James Hetfield got burned, so they had. They had to stop their set after like 45 minutes or something. Then we waited 4 hours for Axl to finally make his way onto the stage. And then he played 3 or 4 songs. I had bad seats, so I couldn't tell what he was saying. He just screamed something to the audience. He gave us the finger, and he walked off stage, and that was it for the concert. And a riot broke out. But anyways, that's a whole fun to remember that I was part of that whole riot thing. It's a famous thing here in Montreal, but still, I got burned on the concert. You know. But have to say, I never saw Metallica again after that. But probably the best band I ever saw live, Metallica. The 45 minutes I got to see, God, if you were a Metallica fan, wow, did they put on good shows back in those days. Incredible. They sounded amazing. But Axl also. It was fun. It was great. It was just a great time for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But yeah, not anymore. So I'm especially not going to pay $300 or whatever it costs these days to see them. Yeah. I would if he was one of those frontmen who still had the voice. I would, right? Yeah. I would. But because I know he doesn't, I'm like, there's no hell, no way in hell. Like, for that kind of money, no.
I'll tell you, I saw. That's funny that you're talking about the best bands. The two best bands I ever saw live were Bruno. Well, three best bands. I saw Bruno Mars live in Las Vegas. It was maybe 8 months or so after he had done the Super Bowl, and he was as good as at the Super Bowl as he was in that venue. He was just phenomenal, just really, really great. And then got the crowd jumping. I mean, that was a great concert. U2 was phenomenal back. They're still good, but they were really, really good back in the day.
When did you see U2?
I've seen U2 many times because they're one of my favorites. But I saw U2. This was about 90, right when Pride in the Name of Love had come out.
Wow!
And right about that. And so they what is the Unforgettable Fire or something like that? I can't remember the name of the album off the site.
The Unforgettable Fire wasn't that the EP Unforgettable Fire?
I can't remember what the name of the album was all of a sudden. Anyway, it's whatever album the Pride in the Name of Love is on. And a fight broke out in front of the stage, and Bono stopped the concert and impromptu gave this speech for like 5 or 6 minutes about how people should get along and kind of all this other stuff, which was very eloquent. And then he sang Pride in the Name of Love then, and the band just picked up on it, and then they sang it again later. But it was so good. They were so phenomenal. They kicked off the Joshua Tree tour in Arizona at this little tiny venue at ASU, because I live in Arizona. And so there was a little tiny venue. It probably held 3,000 people. Wow. And by the time they came back and they did their live movie, their concert movie, and they played ASU Stadium. But when they played ASU Stadium, they were selling tickets for $5 a piece. Because they had to film it over 2 days, and they wanted to fill the stadium.
That's cool.
They sold tickets. So I went to both nights, and it was $5 a piece. They were phenomenal both nights, and then In Excess before Michael Hutchence passed away.
Right.
He was a force of nature on the stage. He was so good. He got the crowd into it. The band was terrific. Those guys were a great, great band. That was a shame what happened to him.
That was a shame, absolutely. Well,
Unforgettable Fire, Unforgettable Fire. Mikhail was nice enough to post.
That's what I was saying. Wasn't it the Unforgettable Fire? And wasn't it more of an EP, or was it a full album?
I think that's the actual name. I think that's the actual album.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to take away from the show to look it up, but yeah. So
yeah. And speaking of Mikhail mentioned. After saying that Axl Rose didn't look so good, he says, here it is. Slash knew what he was doing when he picked his look 35 years ago. Yeah, like for sure. Like that it's the iconic look of Guns N' Roses. It's the top hat, the hair, the cigarette hanging out of the mouth. I mean,
Slash.
That's
Slash. Slash is the top. Yeah. Axl is the front man.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yeah, Slash. Like Axl is the front man.
Yeah,
but Slash as the guitarist, he's the guy whose look, right? That's
absolutely.
It's symbolic with the group,
The sad thing is, it's still cool. He still wears the top hat and the cigarette and the same thing, the same outfit, but he can still pull it off. He still looks, looks cool. He didn't age. I don't know what happened to him, but he's genetically gifted.
No, that's absolutely awesome. Okay, so I did want to go back real quick. And thank you, everybody. By the way, thank you as always for allowing us as often. We haven't done this in so long, but as you guys remember, those of you who've been around for most of the past year that I've been doing this, when we used to do these hangouts as strictly talk and no art showing, we often went on tangents, and sometimes they were about music, so I like it. I love it, actually. There's more to life than just comics. We don't necessarily need to know each other just on that surface level of comics and comic art. It's nice to know a little bit more about each other, on different levels. So our likes and dislikes and whatnot. So it's fun. So I'm glad. So thank you to everybody who didn't complain. Mind you, I haven't caught up to all the comments, so maybe there are some complaints. But thank you to most of you for hanging in with us as we chatted about music that late, as long as we did. I wanted to bring up that I gotta look for it here now. Scott. Let me see. There's a lot of Scott wanted to ask you. He was asking you. Here it is. So how'd you come across the ASM 308 McSpidey page? He loves that one and have stopped by the collection many times to check it out. Is it all drawn, or are there stats in the 4 quadrants?
Nothing. It's all 100% artwork. Yeah. And one of the reasons I bought it, so it was for sale many years ago, and I'm a huge fan of McFarlane, but more of his style than his writing. I think his writing is mediocre, but his style was phenomenal. I love Spider-Man, and he always drew him in a way that I thought was exactly what Spider-Man should be. This very limber, extremely agile, very kind of almost, he had got that superhuman kind of spiderish element to him so perfectly. And that page, when I saw it, I was like, I got to have that. Because it had everything in it that I wanted to. It had the spaghetti webbing. It had Spider-Man showing off his super strength. He was clinging to stuff. He even had the spider flashlight going on. So that piece to me was a terrific piece, and I love that piece.
Excellent, thank you. And
but it does look like it should have. There's no whiteout. There's no nothing. It's really just a pristine, great example.
Yeah, Scott, I just hope you. I hope our music talk, because I know you posted it right before we went into the music talk. I hope you're still here listening to that reply. But anyways, if not, well, hopefully you catch it on Rewind or something.
I'm cracking up at Reporter's High, bro, because when I quit drinking, I quit going to concerts. I don't have to be drunk to enjoy the music, but it's the only way I can tolerate the rest of the drunks.
I'm gonna get to that. Okay, I'm gonna work my way down.
Sorry.
Wanted to say hello, hey Hart. Just in case I haven't gone all the way down to see the most recent comments, so just to let you know, in case Carl, you haven't connected with Carl, I connected with Carl earlier, and he emailed me, and so I will put you guys in touch a little bit later. So good to see you, man. Good to see you. There you go. Yeah, and the Hart man. CJ, just wanted to say that Prince made me rich. Who are you talking about? Are you
talking about the Nigerian Prince that I was mentioning?
Oh, the night. Because we got into the music, and then I was like, Prince?
Yeah.
Okay. And like, oh, there you go. Wow, I can't believe CJ still hasn't figured it out yet. Yeah, he hasn't figured out that his account is empty. I don't get it, Oh, that's funny. Hart is here to ask about Maui. This is all from earlier. So your bro said, wait, 100%. There we go. That's from earlier. Yes, I'm going backwards, guys. So just give me a moment here. I want to make sure I don't miss anything good from earlier before the music talk happened. Marcus said to Karen, when they watch your videos, they will think you're royalty and will price accordingly. Don't disrespect the claw. Thank you. Hey, look at that. I don't know who she was. I don't know if she was referring to Marcus though. But thanks for the backup there, Karen. I like that. Been told it a few times at cons. Got in a big argument at one con over it. The prick embarrassed me. Oh, the whole thing about what Jared was saying about the whole watch, the Breitling thing, I guess is what you're probably referring to. Number one.
Well, also probably when he said if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it.
Oh, maybe the can't afford it thing. Oh, right. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Right. And you got into a big argument. Yeah. Because of course it's embarrassing. Like what? Like it's humiliating, right? It's like the person wants to an attempt at humiliation. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish by saying something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, just because somebody doesn't come in a silk suit wearing, massive amounts of jewelry doesn't mean that they don't have financial needs.
Yeah. And Mark says something interesting. Everything has a price. Not everything has value. That goes for
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Yeah. And look, Rich is telling us that, man, not even just dealers, some artists have used that line at shows too. Can you imagine an artist saying that to somebody? Oh my God. You can imagine that?
I will tell you a funny story. I was with another collector, and I won't tell you who it is. If he's on and he wants to admit who he is, that's fine. But he's extremely wealthy, and he can afford anything he wants. Right. And he does not dress. He wears a comic book T-shirt and flip flops and shorts, just like we all do at Comic-Con. He's walking around, and the guy said that to him, and I started laughing.
Oh, really?
You have no idea what you just did, and we walked away.
Oh, and it was an artist who said it?
It was an artist who said it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. These guys sometimes.
I don't get it. Oh, what are you thinking? Like, oh, man.
Thumbs up. I apologize. It wasn't the artist. It was his rep.
Okay. But it's just as bad because you're representing the guy, right? So it's even worse in some ways.
Well, let me put it this way. It's a guy who has a very, very large booth and sells paintings by his client. He only has one painting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not smart.
Yeah. No, that's pretty insane. Yeah, Mike says, don't forget the old thanks for inquiring your offer, but somebody just offered me $500 more to get you into a bidding war against the Phantom. Yeah. Of course, there's all sorts of little tricks that people pull, but just don't fall prey to it. I mean, some people will, unfortunately, and hopefully they learn from their lessons after that.
I agree.
Yeah, the phrase I can't stand is "I'll give you X." You're not giving me anything. I'm sorry, CJ. Can you maybe, explain that? The phrase I can't stand is "I'll give you this amount." You're not giving me anything. Sorry, man. Yeah, that's over my head. I'm not catching that, CJ. Sorry. If you could explain that, I'm curious though. The Nigerian prince. I buy low. I sell when I'm high.
Yeah. So here's another variation, and there's a very well-known dealer who I respect tremendously, and I think he's a very good dealer. The people who never negotiate.
Okay.
Yeah, you make them an offer, they're like, nope. It's the price is the price. I'm not going to negotiate it at all. I'm never going to come down. The price is the price, and that's what it is.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes I think that's good, and sometimes I don't think that's good.
Right. I mean, yeah, I've never been a fan myself. I'd be honest. I don't know. You know what it is some people who do that have good stuff.
Yeah.
And they just feel like, well, I got good stuff, so I don't need to. And because it's a very addictive hobby by nature, right? The idea is they know that most people who like any of the artists that person sells, they're gonna come back to them anyways. They're gonna buy. They'll give in and they'll buy no matter what.
Yeah.
So right. So ergo, why should I give you a discount? You'll buy it eventually anyways, right? So
I agree with you on that part of it. It's when something's been sitting on their site, and I've had this happen before where I've inquired about a piece. They said no. I've come back 3 or 4 years later to inquire about it, and it's still there. And I'm going, is this piece really still available? Yeah. I think that you're doing it either. I mean, if you're not representing that artist, I guess it's one thing. It's from your own inventory, so you can afford to sit on it for forever. But for me, as a business guy, if I've got inventory that's that stale and everybody's seen it and nobody's buying it for that price after all these years, what do you think is going to change?
Right. Yeah.
No, so that is, but they owe me nothing, so they can continue to say no, or but I do think that is part of frustration for me when I'm trying to buy a piece that didn't sell originally and still there. If you're not going to give me a discount, it's just going to still sit there.
Yeah, I get it. For sure. I agree. Carl, I'm going to throw this one at you, Jared, if you don't mind taking this. Carl had asked, this was sorry guys, I know it's half an hour ago, but I'll let Jared take this, and then I'll start reading. I'll go and working my way down towards the most recent comments. Yeah, what are the pros and cons of having a calf? If you can do this like sort of quickly, because this could be a whole.
The pro is what I talked about earlier, which is that people get to see this phenomenal artwork, and it's not you're not brag. Some people post because they want to brag that they got a great piece. I don't see it that way. I think that if you acquired it and it's phenomenal, you deserve to share it with the people because it's an actual piece of artwork. And the other thing is that if you decide at some point that you want to sell it or whatever, and you might you may get an offer you can't refuse. I mean, you know, that's always a benefit. The con of it is if you post a nice piece, no offense, like my Spider-Man piece, you'll get hammered, or my Killing Joke piece. People will hammer me with sometimes the prices that are so unreasonably low that and they don't take no for an answer. So there are a few cons, but honestly, they're not that much. A lot of times people will say, "Hey, I love this piece. What do you think it's worth?" Or inquire, you know, say, "Hey, Jared, I know that you collect this artist. I'm being interested in the piece that he's got over here. Could you help me with the price?" And I love that. I want to help people. I want to be a resource if I can, and sometimes I just don't know. Sometimes I'm just absolutely the wrong guy to ask. But if I can, I'll direct you in the right place. So I think it is good. I think it has a lot more pros than cons. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, Carl, for me, I would say also, just in general, on a very simple level, the pro is that, you know, it's just, I just feel like I don't post things online for me. I know some guys tell me, you know, it's a good way to sort of keep track of my collection. Okay, fine, that's fine. For me, I don't care about that. Like, I don't need to see my art online. I really don't. But I just feel like, okay, there's got to be somebody out there that will also like whatever or some of the stuff that I own, and I guess they would appreciate seeing it. So that's why I do it, right? So I guess the bottom line is because I guess for the purpose of sharing, just simply because, you know, other people out there will enjoy seeing it as well, right? So that's to me the main reason to post stuff online, I think, just to share with other people, because it is art after all. Art should be seen, I think. And I guess there could be many cons, whatever. I guess the worst is not the worst. The most annoying for me is, and I've talked about this before, the most annoying is that I have had the bad fortune, the misfortune, I guess, that when people inquire to buy, like 99% of them do not include a price. It's I get 99% of my inquiries are, yeah, so would you ever sell this? And if so, how much? Like, what? I'm like, okay, just I can't, you know. So so that's for me, that's the worst part. But
I'll tell you another pro that I just thought of is people will offer me sometimes things because they'll see I like Batman or whoever, you know, some of the characters that I enjoy, and I really love a lot of the mystical characters like Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange, the Spectre, Demon. Those characters. I'll get offered pieces sometimes, and that's lovely. And I've made a few deals that way. So that's a piece that I would not have known about before.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? Like there's always going to be pros and cons to everything in life, really, if you think about it, right? But I do think, Carl, I do think that if you had to make the choice, I do think it's better to do it than to not do it. So even if you take the cons into consideration, I mean, how otherwise do you have fun? I mean, you can collect in a vacuum, I suppose. You can. It's possible. But as we've all seen, you know, when we step out of our comfort zones and, you know, you see there's other people, like-minded people out there that you can kind of become friends with because you have similarities in the things you collect, the things you like, the music you're into, whatever the case may be. Life just becomes more interesting when you get to know more people, doesn't it? I mean, that's kind of how I see it, you know?
Well, especially people that share the same interests as you. That to me is the joy of it. You know, like I said, I meeting up at Comic-Con with people every year and seeing all these people we can talk about a million, like we are today, a million different things that we have in common is fun. You know, it's not just all about comic book artwork, and sometimes it can be, and that's also fun. You know, so I think it's great. But if you don't share it, then I guess you're not really participating, right? You're just kind of standing on the sidelines and being an observer all the time. And maybe that's not the best, which is why I'm here today, because I've been lurking way too long.
Yeah, yeah. Rick, I never saw them, but they were great back in the 80s. Boy, I loved them back then. Klaus, does Klaus still, I think Klaus, I looked at some videos a few years ago, and Klaus Main still seems to have a phenomenal voice. He can still carry killer notes. Yeah. So, yeah. TJ says that Frankie Valli is still touring. Oh, my God.
I've heard very good things about him touring, too. That he can still sing very, very well.
Wow. And Dion is a blues man now? Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. And yes, amazing that Keith Richards is alive.
He's still. I'm not sure he is alive. He's the living dead.
That's wild. Carl says that Frankie Valli was just at a concert on Maui a few weeks ago. That's wild, man. Oh my gosh.
Well, if I had to do a concert, I would go to Maui.
You go to Maui?
Oh, Maui's beautiful.
For a concert.
Yeah.
Mark says that our hobby's anthem should be "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You." Not bad. I think we can come up with better ones than that, though. But that's not bad. Did you riot? As in quiet riot? Are you asking, Mike? Because I loved them when they came out with Mental Health. Never saw them. I don't know if you were asking about them. I don't know who else you'd be talking about with that reference. But speaking of Quiet Riot, I don't know if that is who you're talking about, Mike, but FYI, if anybody's interested who remembers them, the mask from the cover of the album, right? The Mental Health mask, right? That he was wearing, the Dr. Doomish looking kind of mask, as well as the original painted cover to the album, just a few years ago, went on the auction block. And,
wow.
They sold for, it's funny because you don't know if it's a lot or if it's cheap because there's so little famous album art that has ever actually gone on sale. So you don't know what it should be worth, right? But they both went for in the neighborhood of about 40 grand a piece.
Jeez. I'm actually a little surprised. I think that's expensive. I mean, not expensive, but I think that is high.
Yeah. But then again,
they were basically a one album band, but they had
I know, but what a great album! And like all these years later,
so iconic.
Yeah.
No, like I said, it's kind of hard to know. But the lead singer, I think he committed suicide several years ago. I don't know if he died naturally, but I'm pretty confident he committed suicide.
He passed. I know he passed. Yeah.
Mikhail,
I'm really late to this, Mikhail, but yeah, you don't remember? Are you surprised that I got to see them both, or you just weren't aware that they did a tour together? It wasn't very long. It was like, I think, a summer tour. It was several months long.
I think they hated each other. I think I remember that. Hated each other.
Yeah. Well, they actually liked each other at first, but it was during that heyday. They were both exploding as bands, but most of the guys in Guns N' Roses were using drugs at the time.
Yeah.
Right, and it was just like it was chaotic, and again, Axl with he always had the bipolar or whatever. And he just had that habit of I'll come on whenever I feel like it, and and that he was pissing Metallica guys off because he was pissing off the fans. So
that's why I never went to see him. I could have gone to see him a couple of times, but I didn't because you never knew if Axl would really show up. And if he was going to make you wait, or if he did show up, he'd only do a few songs like he did for you. He was notorious for that back then. It was not good. They had a really bad reputation.
Yeah. Sebastian Bach. Say again, Jared.
It says Rubén DaCollector.
Oh, yeah, because I mentioned part of that Riot concert that I had.
Yeah.
A lot of older rock bands rely on backup singers to hit the high notes. That's true. That's what they do. Exactly.
Like Elton John, I just saw Elton John on his farewell tour. He can't hit any of those high notes.
I know.
They're almost completely different. It's not even the same voice anymore.
I know. It's so bizarre, right? Like when you hear it.
Weird.
Like, yeah, it's weird. It's like,
well, it still sounds good. I mean, he still has a good voice, but if you listen to Rocket Man and a bunch of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Benny the Jets, on and on, he had a much higher pitched singing voice than he uses now.
Right.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know when it made that transition exactly, but yeah, it's still good in concert. But yeah, it was time for him to retire.
CJ, I know you're always up on Steely Dan. They must be your favorite. Tell me they're your favorite because you keep mentioning them on my shows all the time. So, yeah, man, as you know, I never got into Steely Dan. I wouldn't recognize more than a song or two if I heard them, you know?
I'm so sorry. I literally do not like Steely Dan. And I love all kinds of music. They're just one band I just never could.
Yeah, you can't like it all. You can like a lot of music. It doesn't mean you like it all, right? So,
no.
So, yeah, Hoarder's Hide. Okay, so I'm finally getting to you. There is none tonight. All right? So I did it it seemed like Frank Sinatra. I did it my way. All right? I did it my way. We're just shooting the breeze tonight.
Jason asked me a question. Jason Ladley.
Yeah, take it.
Good question. He said, "Who is the artist you are thrilled to have a piece by, and is there an artist you really want but don't have yet?" Yes, I would. I'm always thrilled when I see some of the. I love Brian Boland, and I love George Perez, and so I'm thrilled to have pieces by those two artists because those are two of my very favorite artists. And the piece I would love to have, even though I own a couple pieces by John Byrne, I would love to have one of the X-Men pieces. But obviously, everybody would love to have one of those pieces. But that, to me, was my prime kind of where I really it clicked in a way, which it clicked with lots of fans at the time, that Dark Phoenix saga and the whole Count Nefaria thing with the Avengers and everything. Those stories were burned into my skull. And so when I think of comics and I think of the best storylines, those are the ones that leap to my mind because I lived them in real time. I read them and I couldn't wait to get the next issue when it would come out. And when Thor arrived and throws the hammer at Count Nefaria, that piece actually came up. And God, I tried for that piece, but I could not get it. And those are pieces that I would love to own. So that's a good question. Yeah. And there's a couple of others too. I mean, there's some. I love Conan, so there's some Conan pieces that I would love by some of the artists who have done him over the years. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of my thing.
Mikhail, I wanted to take this because I think he's also one of the victims of somebody who said he did that to me too. Didn't know who I was and what I had bought from them in the past. Oh, all right. So it's a guy that you had already bought art from through the mail, and then go see him at a show, and he gives you the old, you can't afford it because you don't know the price. What? Holy shit. Mikhail, did you say anything to him, or did you just walk away because you felt like you were like too much in shock to say anything? Tell me, because I'm curious. Wow, that's just so crazy. Oh my gosh. David Matheny, how's it going, man? Catching the show live. Which show you catch? Oh, yeah, tonight you mean. Yes, absolutely. Good to see you, dude. Is negotiating encouraged, Carl? I mean,
I always think so.
I don't know if it's encouraged by who, but I would encourage you to negotiate if you can. Why not? Right? Yeah. I will say.
Go ahead, Rubén.
No, I'll just say quickly, and then you can take what you were going to say right after. I just wanted to say that for me, the exception for me is simply that when I'm selling art on behalf of an artist and it's a brand new art drop, the prices are the prices. We're not going to negotiate because it literally is brand new. And so what I will tell people is when they ask, like, oh, can you negotiate? I just say, like, look, I literally just dropped it. If what you like is still there, like in, I don't know, 2 to 4 weeks, whatever, something like that, get back to me. Well, we can talk for sure. But on the day of the drop, I'm not going to negotiate. I spend a bunch of time. We talk it over, trying to figure out, it's not an exact science. And it takes a while to finally figure out what the right prices for each page are. And so, yeah, those are the prices. Let's leave the prices the way we think they're fair, at least long enough to let the entire hobby have a chance to find the art, come and see the art and have a chance to buy it. So that's why I say a couple of weeks or maybe a little longer, whatever. After that, sure, come on back and you can ask me for a deal or whatever, Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
You literally almost said exactly what I was going to say, but kind of I was going to add to it really, which is it's not an exact science. It was funny because I was saying that exact phrase. And because it's not an exact science, I think negotiation is encouraged. And I'm not being disrespectful to you, Ruben. I don't mean it that way. But for example, if you listed a piece just for hypothetically at $1,000 and somebody says, yeah, you know what, I'll offer you $950 or I'll offer you $975, you might be like, well, okay, yeah. I mean, at $25 or whatever is not enough for me to forego a sale. And that because it's not a fine science. We know what the cost of goods are. It's ink, pencil, and a piece of paper. It's nothing. And so really what you're paying for is the artist's time and the artist. And so there's a lot of factors that go to it. It's how important the character is, how important the storyline is, on and on and on. All the things that we look at. And so that means to me, in order to kind of determine the price when there's only this one thing, you kind of have to negotiate because that's how the fair market determines what the value should be. So I always think negotiation is encouraged because then I kind of understand, and I've had experiences where I have overpriced pieces. I had one that I wanted to sell just fairly recently, and I had offered it to a couple of people, and they came back and said, Jared, your price is basically ridiculous. And I was like, well, you're right, it is. And that's how I knew that I was pricing it incorrectly. So I like encouraging it because I can always say no. No is a magical word. And so if I don't like the price that you've sent to me, I can say no. And you have a choice to make a counter offer, or I can say, you know what, you kind of hit my sweet spot. Let's go. We're done. So that's why I do like negotiation. And that's why I was bringing it up before about that one dealer. You never know. You just might get that piece moved. And your cost of storing inventory does have a cost to it. Because as a piece, it's like a house that's been on the market too long. Once enough people have seen it, and I've seen this where I've seen great pieces, and I sit there and go, why isn't that piece sold? And it's because people have seen it so many times. They're all wondering why it hasn't sold too. And so people think, because our hobby's weird that way, well, if it hasn't sold already, there must be something wrong with it. Or there's a reason why it hasn't sold, so I'm not going to try to buy it. And that's one of the things. So I think you should move inventory because then it becomes more in demand. Yeah. But that's me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Hoarder's hide. Yeah, that's good. If you have the opportunity to be able to rub it in the guy's face after, that's great. Obviously, that's nice when you can do that, So it's good that you were able to do that. Murdoch. So he uses his calf as a catalog of what he actually right. So that's what I was saying earlier. That some people use it because they tell me that it's a way of an easy way to keep track of their collection or whatever. And so you've bought multiple pieces from an artist because you completely forgotten you had one already. There's a problem there, Yeah, there's something.
I was just going through my stuff the other day, and I go, oh, I thought I sold that, or I didn't remember I had this one. So I have done exactly that. That's funny that he said that.
Yeah, that's funny. Karen is saying that you love the Mazzucchelli pages. In my calf. Thank you. Sorry,
I don't have one.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine, FYI, mine are from the before he started to ink himself. So I still love them because the storytelling is impeccable. It's beautiful. Yeah. The Bulanati inks are still very nice, but not quite as great as when you saw him starting to ink himself. But yeah, Karen, I love those because it was a 2-part story where in that first part of the story, he spends most of the time in this house booby trapped. I just love him trying to escape all these booby traps, and I fell in love with that story. It was like based on an Arthur Byron cover and Harlan Ellison story that they worked on together, and I loved it, and that's why I got those pages. But you know what, Karen? What's crazy thing about it is, at the time when I started buying those, I bought them. That was probably over 20 years ago, and at the time I thought, oh yeah, sure, I'll collect. I love this story. I'll collect pages from this book, But all 4 pages that I own were all purchased over 20 years ago. I never saw another page since then. And now I will fully admit to you, they're so expensive that I can't say never, but I have a feeling I probably would not bother to buy them again if they suddenly started to appear. Because it's not really my, thing that I collect anymore. So yeah, it's a lot of money to put in for something that I'm not as into. But I'm happy to have the ones I have. So yeah, glad you appreciate them. Yeah. Hoarder's Hide. So all your art is NFS, but making an offer does not offend me. That's cool. Some people look, I don't know why people get offended. I've always said, it's just, you have nothing to lose. You're not trying to make friends with the guy. You're trying to buy a piece of art. So, but this is why I always say, and what Jared was saying about, we prefer people who come in at us immediately with an actual number. And I always advise, do that, because you may never get a second chance, right? If you're contacting somebody who has the tendency to get offended by by receiving offers, you may not get a second chance. So a person like that who gets offended, you're wasting maybe your only opportunity by saying, hey, would you ever sell that piece? And how much? You know what I mean? You're wasting it.
I'm going to add one thing to what you said. I
Sure.
do sometimes get it, and we were having this conversation before the show started. I had a guy offer me, this incredibly stupid price for my Killing Joke page. And if you're going to make an offer, and I do agree with exactly what Rubén, when you just said, come in, make an offer, do a little research.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what that should be, because if you do come in super, super, super low, you will. Most collectors are going to get probably offended. Because you're going to be like, you're an idiot. You're wasting my time.
Yeah, you're to me, the way I take it is, you're probably just a lowballer hoping that I'm stupid. Yeah. Right? You're hoping I'm the unknowledgeable one. That's what's probably happening. Yeah.
Or they'll pretend they are. And I've seen guys. I saw one of the guys I was telling you about who sent me an offer. I went to his gallery, very lovely art collection, and it's almost insulting to me when you think that offer, I would consider it because it's so low. It's almost it is disrespectful, truthfully, to think that you could lowball me so low on that. So I will say that I try not to get offended, because sometimes I will give people the benefit of the doubt that just don't know. But other times they're chasing it and trying to see, like you said, if you'll accept that offer. And that in and of itself is unfair, because you're making somebody an offer for a piece that is worth so much more. You're not being fair to the person you're trying to make an offer to. I'm not trying to say don't get the best price you can, but at some point, if there is a point where you sit there and go, look, if that piece is worth several $100,000 and you got it and you made an offer for $5 and the guy was stupid enough to take it, to me, that just doesn't feel right to me. I would feel bad about, I think that I would feel bad about buying a piece of art that I knew was worth that much, kind of robbing the guy or lady. I don't want to say guy, because plenty of ladies have great collections too. Karen's a great example. I think
Karen.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ian put a long comment, and I don't know what it is. So I have to say your education on making the offer with price made me increase a price for something I wanted. Okay, so when you approach somebody is what you're saying, I guess, and was able to get it probably because I went in with an offer. So I see. Okay, when we spoke up, right, and I told you my philosophy on that. Okay, and then you tried it and you got it. So great, yeah, exactly, perfect, man. I'm glad to hear that, Ian. So that's fantastic. And thank you for clearing that up. The riot at the Metallica GNR show. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Rich, I couldn't be all about the mosh pit. My seats were so crappy. I couldn't even get near the mosh pit. So no choice but to kind of be really far and trying to be like, I think I see him. Yeah. Rubén the Quiet Rioter. Follow-up album Condition Critical was good too. Was it? I'll have to take your word for that. Okay, Mikhail. So you didn't even know they toured together. Wow, yeah. So Metallica, GNR, yep. Yeah. At the time, like I said, the two biggest bands in the world. Oh, we're gonna tour together. It was crazy. It was like, what? And you know what? I remember just for fun. The tickets were, and of course they weren't cheap at the time, but in today's, by today's standards, very cheap. The tickets, I believe, cost me through the box office. They were crappy tickets, but still, they were $40 or $42 or something like that. But for the two biggest bands in the world at the time, it's kind of like, wow, that's like, you can afford that. Like, wow, that's awesome. So, yeah. Good times. To be that young again, early 20s, So, Jared, who's the artist?
Question I answered before.
Oh, that's the one you, okay. Oh, that by Jason. That's right. Okay. Sorry.
The other one I thought of that I should just say this real quick is I would love to own a great page from Lock and Key. I think Lock and Key, that series, is
Lock and Key,
the best drawn, best written, most interesting comic book series I have read in a long time. I loved it.
Me too. Me too. I had been hearing about it for a long time, and one day I was like, I don't know, like it's like multiple volumes. I'm always short of space here, so I got to be careful what I buy. And I'm like, I don't know, let me check my local library, and they had it all. So I'm like, fantastic! Oh my god, I borrowed the whole thing, and wow, fantastic! Like you said, Jared,
the art was just to die for. He kept. There's only very few. There's a couple of covers out there, and I don't know if there's any interior pages that I've seen. The people who have them aren't letting them go, but the art is terrific. That's literally just such a wonderful, and every story was good. Yeah, they added on to it a little bit. And I thought all of it, start to finish, was terrific.
And by the way,
wasn't very good.
What wasn't very good?
They did a Netflix show.
Oh yeah. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I don't know why they felt it necessary to change some of the major plot points, and I did not think that did them any service.
Oh, okay. Because I got to tell you, I thought, wow, they're making a show. Maybe I'll watch it, and for some reason, I just haven't been in the mood, and I've never tried it, and I don't really feel compelled to, even after all this time. And then I hear stuff like what you just said, and I'm like, okay, I think I made the right decision. Like, okay, yeah, I don't, because watching series, you get recommended so many series by friends and by articles you read online, and there's only so much time we have available, right, to do our free time, and it's kind of like it's a big commitment to say, okay, I'm going to watch this entire series or a full season or multiple seasons of a series. It's a lot. So yeah, you got to be going to pick your spots. And yeah, since I did not hear overwhelmingly positive feedback on it, I guess that's probably what made me think, you know what, I think I can skip that.
I didn't finish it. I just didn't feel the need to, and I really felt that was a series that would have significantly benefited by being animated.
Okay,
I really felt that would have been a terrific series to animate, because they couldn't do it well in live action, and I think that was one that, frankly, they did a disservice to it. And I remember seeing the guys at Comic-Con. They had a Comic-Con panel on it, and I was so excited for it. And originally, it was going to be they had written it once, and it was going to be someplace else, and then Netflix bought it, and they changed it again. And I can't remember the whole story with it, but it just did not pan out well, unfortunately.
Jason. We're finding out Jason's a little bit of an evil person here. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah.
And he recognizes gender.
Good one. Touche, Jared. Oh, that's good. That's good. Carl, come on. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. By the way, I just want to say it took me up until, I don't know, a decade ago or something before I actually read the Proteus story. Because I always thought, I don't know why, I looked at the covers and I thought, ugh, what's happening there? I don't know, the world's gone crazy. I'm like, I don't want to see that. That looks, I don't want to read that. That's boring. And then 10 years ago or so, I finally read the Proteus story. And not only did I love it, I think I've gone on record saying I may have loved it. It may be my favorite story of the Bird era, even more than the Death of Phoenix story.
Yeah, I think both of those. Yeah, those are terrific. Yeah, I didn't appreciate. It's so funny. There's a couple of things, even though I've been collecting art as long as I have. There's a few things I didn't appreciate until fairly recently. One is Byrne's artwork, especially earlier Byrne. How terrific he was, and inking. I didn't really understand why inking made such a difference. I mean, I understand the pencils, but when you see truly kind of a side-by-side comparison of people who inked the same page, and you can see what inking brings to a page. And sometimes, like for example, John Buscema, Ernie Chan, or whoever was inking him, they literally drew the page. He would just have some rough, basic sketches on there, and they're the ones who filled in all the details. Once you kind of get that understanding, it really helped me to kind of be more discriminating in the art that I did and understand it better technically. I'm not a person who can appreciate as much the technical aspects of the art that I own.
Okay.
I'm somebody who I look at a page and it just looks really cool, and I'll see details in it that appeal to me. So sometimes it's really small. Like I have a piece I was just showing a friend of mine, frankly, today that is by oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on the artist's name. God, he's so popular. He did JLA for a long time. Anyway, he did this Superman page, and it's not Superman's just kind of just walking towards, just kind of a boring image of Superman, but the background is so phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It's so detailed. Everything is drawn so incredibly ornately and beautifully that's what made me love that page. It was a double page spread, and now I'm going to shoot myself because I can't remember the name of the artist. But it's really, really cool.
Who has that piece?
Me.
Oh, it's one of your collection pieces.
Yeah, I just can't remember for the life of me. All of a sudden, I blanked on the artist's name. He's really famous. I love his stuff.
Like
he's a bodybuilder. The artist is a bodybuilder, and he does stuff all the time. And he has a very distinctive.
You mean Ron Garney?
No. It's not Ron Garney. It's not Mike Deodato. Oh my God, I just cannot for the life of me think of his name.
He has
a very distinctive style, where he has a very detailed black kind of outline around all of his characters. He's doing some animated stuff on Instagram now, and for the life of me, his name just completely blew out of my head.
Okay.
I can't think of it. I will figure it out, and then I will tell you. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I can remember who it is. Jeez. Somebody in the chat will know. Doug Mankey. Thank you.
Who is it?
Art R figured it out. Doug Mankey.
Oh, Doug Monkey. Yeah.
Am I saying his name wrong? Yeah, Monkey.
No, I don't know. I assume that because it's a German name, I would say Monka. Like.
You're probably right.
You know, like
I'm deferring to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I again, like a lot of people say the car is Porsche, but it's Porsche, right?
That's right.
So that's how they pronounce it. So I would say
Doug Mankey, his style, it took a little bit for it to grow on me, and now I absolutely love his style.
Oh, cool.
And I got this double page spread from him. I don't know if I posted it. I don't think I did. But the background is just jaw-droppingly amazing. I mean, he must have spent forever doing that. And Superman is, even though he's prominently a large figure in the middle of the double page spread, he is literally the least detailed of everything in the page. Even though he's drawn well, the background is just so stunning. And that to me is what makes art fun, is finding that little thing. So like I own a Kirby cover that's online. And if you look, Thor's grabbing the masthead of a thing, and Kirby drew his fingers clawing into the masthead. And it's this tiny little detail. And I love the fact that Kirby thought, if his fingers are so strong, they're digging into the wood. He didn't have to do that. He could have just had his hand there. No, but would have made no difference in the cover at all. But that little detail of his fingers digging through that wood is everything to that on that page to me.
Right.
On that cover, I would say.
Of course.
I loved it. Love it.
Yeah. No, I love this stuff too. Actually, I kind of appreciated it from the beginning. So. I don't have any.
Monkey? Are you talking about Monkey, or are you talking about Kirby?
I'm sorry, Doug. Monka.
I didn't. I thought it was a little bit weird, and then once I started appreciating it, I'm like, I actually love this. I actually really like his style. I think he's terrific.
But that's fun. That's a fun part of being a collector. I think, like when you start off really kind of not caring for somebody's work. And then years later, you suddenly see something in it that you're like, I don't know, but it's appealing to me all of a sudden, and it just grows on you for whatever reason. Yes. Yeah, I like that. You can appreciate over time. That's one of the fun. Yeah, it really is one of the fun parts of discovering something that never cared for that one before, but then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Wow, I really am into this guy's stuff now.
And there's some people who just hit you immediately, like Boland hit me immediately, George Perez hit me immediately, and funny enough, the other person it was Bruce Timm. The simplicity of his art style, but yet this really wonderful way of conveying movement and depth and everything, I just thought was terrific.
Yeah, like I said, I always thought it was great. So, do you only have one Doug piece?
I only have one Doug piece. I've wanted to get another one, but I just keep missing them.
Yeah.
But I've been looking for a couple for a while. But I want a really good representation. And he did some other stuff with characters. That's the other thing is that I'm now just moving into, very rarely, but every now and then, I'll buy a piece that I just like the artist style in that piece or something they've done in it. even if I don't know the characters or I don't know the storyline or something like this, I'll just like the artisticness of the artistic appeal of the piece. But most of the time I'll buy a piece because I try to keep it fairly narrow to characters I like or storylines that I like, something that's meaningful to me.
Right.
But
That makes sense.
yeah,
For sure. For sure.
I'm sure,
Sorry, what? Say that again?
I'm sure it's just like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. Alberto, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you loved it too. Yeah, it was an awesome story. I know. So it's cool. See, this is Carl. This is a great kind of example here of what we were talking about earlier about the pros and cons of sharing. So here's a great example on the very show that we talked about the pros and cons, and that I said, for me, the biggest pro, I guess, is it's just nice to share because other people may enjoy what you enjoy. And here we go. The show's not even over, and Alberto's coming to admit that the Daredevil pages that Karen had pointed out earlier, that he remembered, it was a great memory for him too, and he loves them too. Yeah, so exactly, there you go. That's the reason we share, So yeah, so that's awesome. So thank you for admitting and pointing and taking the time to point that out, Alberto. That's cool. And you're welcome, Hart. No worries. My favorite that I've seen lately is when people send me a message in CAF asking me to trade a page they like for something totally unrelated to my collecting focus. It's weird. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. I've gotten that all the time. Well, you know what, Jared? Tell me if you get this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not only do I get tons of, oh yeah, would you ever sell this? And if so, how much, right? But when it comes to trading, I usually get, this is the worst. I get, oh yeah, would you ever part with this? I really love this piece. Here, and they give me a link. Here, take a look and let me know if there's anything you would ever trade for. So you expect me to spend like 2 hours rifling through an entire collection to see if I might find something by chance? Like, get out of here. Like, what? No.
I've had that happen, or I've had where they've offered me something that's completely unrelated to what I want. But trade to me is the I don't like trade, and for a couple of reasons. One is that I never know, because the hobby's so weird, unless I can really determine the price, the value of a piece. I always wonder, am I getting the worst end of the deal? Because I don't know. But if I really like the piece, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But trade to me is always difficult because, I don't know. People overvalue their pieces, including me. I think my pieces are probably worth more than they really are. And so when I'm offering a trade to somebody, I'm expecting X, and they're thinking my trade is value is Y. And so it's harder that way. With cash, or I don't mean actual cash, but I mean a value attached to it and a dollar amount. Yeah. People can kind of agree that's a fair trade. But I think it gets sketchier because it is an exact science. When you're dealing with something other than, I have been offered a couple pieces that had just recently sold at Heritage, so I could kind of see what the value is. But that's the rare thing. So other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. But Alberto says something really, it's a perfect point though, right? Because what I said was already bad enough. But what he's saying is it is another problem. It's they'll offer you something that has nothing to do with what you collect. And it's like they just think, it's like they're thinking about themselves and like nothing else. It's like, I'm just telling you what's good for me. For me, it's good to get this piece from you. And this is the piece I have that's in similar value that I think is valued. How about a trade? And it's like, but what about the fact that what you're offering me is like, did you even look at my gallery? Like, it's so unrelated to what I collect. Like, what are you talking about? It's so weird. He's right. It's so bizarre. So I don't get that.
I had some guy offer me a really weak 90s panel page, and it's by, and there's some artists whose styles I just don't care for, and I don't mean that they're bad artists. It's just doesn't appeal to me. And like John Romita Jr., when he changed to kind of his current style from when he aped his dad back in the day, I don't like the way he draws for the most part, and it's just my own stylistic way of things that I like. Somebody offered me a really weak JR Jr. page that had part of Spider-Man in it, and the rest of it was supporting cast, just their faces, for a really nice splash page of mine. I'm going, Really? Come on.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's just
Uh,
pay something.
yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to take this because it's a very, very good question, David. So is it inappropriate to ask the seller, how much are you looking at, instead of making an offer? Like first, let me just say, David, I'm assuming, of course, I have to assume you're talking about uh, um, an instance where a seller has no price on it, like when it's like, oh, make an offer or something like that. Is that what you mean? Because if that's the case, if there's no price, I would say it makes sense to, like, well, yeah, to say, like, you're trying to get the answer out of them, right? Like, so what are you looking for, on this piece? I don't see anything wrong with that, because there's no price and they should have a price on it. But if there was a price, I would say no. Like, if there's a price, it doesn't make sense for you to say, well, how much are you looking for? Because I'm telling you, if I have a price on it and you do that to me, I'd be thinking, I'd probably be sarcastically telling you, I'd probably say something like, well, you know what I'm looking at, because the price is listed right there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but let me know. I think you're talking about when it's an unlisted price. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, I also think he's talking about if a piece is listed for sale, but there's no price. Because if you're just commenting on a piece that's not listed for sale,
Oh no, yeah.
Then yeah, I think that'd be silly.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm assuming too. Yeah, exactly. Well, David, you let us know, just so we're on the same page with that. Number one Marvel fan, great comments. I get asked to sell something every week and never given a price either. So like me, I'll say it's not for sale, but I'll consider an offer. Mm-hmm. And they always say something way below value. Yeah. Well, that's what I get, or I get a combination of that, or sometimes it's just they ghost me. They're not willing to tell you what they're willing to pay. You know what I mean? Like, no. It's just like, what? They always want you to do all the work, even though it's not for sale. Like, I don't get it. It's not for sale. Like, you have to do the work. It is incumbent, the onus is on you as the guy wanting the art to do the work. Like, don't expect the seller who isn't selling something. Again, it all falls into that thing that people ask me all the time. Yeah, would you ever consider selling this? And if so, how much? Like, what? Yeah. It's crazy, like, so yeah, there you go. So
don't go against yourself.
Yes. So serious question. How many cups of night coffee do you drink before the show? You honestly think that I would think, David, that that's a serious question? Look at Jared. You're making Jared laugh his ass off already. Clearly, that's not a serious question. And I must tell you, my friend, I am not typically, I've never considered myself like a coffee drinker. Although lately I've discovered capsule coffee. And because of that, I'm on a little bit of a coffee binge. But what I mean by that is I at night with my wife, she loves coffee. We have a cup of coffee together. So yeah, one at most one per day. I'm not a coffee nut. So yeah, you are a
coffee is so good for you though. They found a lot of studies. I mean, I hate to tell you this. I'm into nutrition and physical fitness and things like this. Coffee's really good for you.
Really?
It's very good. Yep.
Interesting.
They've got a lot. They used to be worried that caffeine can be a problem, but once you get acclimated to it, it's really, it has a lot of great nutritional value. It has a lot of great mental and health benefits. They found it helps a lot of different conditions. It's terrific. Yeah. Funny enough, I drink just a cup of coffee a day or couple of cups of coffee, but it's really is helpful.
So you started doing it because of what you had been reading about it?
So right before COVID, I had been in very good shape almost my entire life, and I had worked out, and I had actually been in some competitions and things like this. And
what kind of competitions? You did bodybuilding or what?
I did some bodybuilding competitions, and I was in karate, and so karate. I was really So I did both. Okay. And so I was kind of amateur, kind of bodybuilder and things like this. But was putting on my pants for a Valentine's Day party with my wife, and she looked over, and these were my fat pants, and she looked over at me, and I could not button my fat pants, and I saw her look at me, and I was embarrassed because I actually adore my wife, and she goes, "Oh, you can't button them," and I said, "No," and right then and there I said, "I'm changing, I'm going back." So I learned what it took to get in shape after 50. I read books, I did a really deep dive into science of nutrition, things like this. And I discarded the crazy fluky stuff like don't eat carbs and things like this. And the stuff that you could realistically do. And I implemented a lot of those changes, and I dropped a substantial amount of weight, put on a bunch of muscle, and my body fat went down, and I feel the best I have felt in years. But one of the things I did is really research, frankly, even every ingredient in protein powder. What's the difference between a good and a bad protein powder? What makes the difference between doing 20 sets and doing 10 sets, and how to implement that without hurting myself, because I'm 55.
Yeah.
And so when I can't run, you shouldn't run anyway because there's so much stress on your joints, but figuring out what I could do without hurting myself and how to combat. As men get older, we eat our protein, we eat our muscle tissue. And that's why people get more frail, and implementing pretty significant resistance training without doing a lot of high intensity cardio was really a big deal. So my cardio consists of just walking. I mean, I walk decently fast, and I eat very, very clean.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Sorry, I went off on a real tangent there. I apologize.
No,
that's way.
Cool. That's cool, man. That's what the show is all about, man. That's cool. Jared wants to ask you, a question for Jared. Jason wants to ask you, what makes you opt for a commission piece versus a published piece by a particular artist? Or does it matter to you?
It does matter to me. So I have gotten very, very few commissions in my life for two reasons. One is I've seen so many horror stories about people who have asked for commissions, and it takes literally years and years and years for them to get their commission back, which I don't like. And number two is I feel like I don't want to art direct the artist, so I kind of want to let them do what they want to do. But there are a few I've gotten commissions from, and luckily they've turned out terrific. But what makes me opt for a commission is when I want a particular character or a particular scene that I want that particular artist to do for me. They're known for that character, or I just love something that they did. I don't want a recreation because to me that's boring. So I'll give a great example. Art Adams. So Art Adams does these they're not real recreations. He will take a cover that he liked and make it his own. Or he'll do something, you can kind of tell him to do a scene, and Art's style is so phenomenally terrific that he can take these characters and almost with a George Perez thing, put all these characters in. Albert Moy has one of my favorite pieces that he ever did, which was this Galactus and all the Marvel universe fighting Galactus. It's a phenomenal piece. I just absolutely love that Albert, and Albert will never sell it, but it's a great piece. And Art can do that kind of stuff with this incredible detail that is just mind-numbing, and I just absolutely love that stuff. So he's somebody that I would get a commission from every day of the week, and those commissions will probably be worth more than you pay for them someday. And it's not even taking the collectability value part of it out. It's something you can look at, and it's just a true work of art because he's so talented.
How many Art Adams pieces do you own? Do you know?
I actually owned one, and I traded it years ago to get a different piece that I really like, and I've never regretted that trade. But I have talked to Art about doing a commission for me, and I think he's working on it. But Art is, he works at his pace, and I'm willing to work with him. I see him every year at Comic-Con. We talk.
Yeah.
He's a super nice guy, and that's one of the other things is that I love about collecting is talking to these people who you respect and you like, and they are genuinely kind and nice and respectful of the fans. That's always a lovely feeling to have a good kind of give and take with them. Yeah. And celebrity doesn't impress me at all. I've represented very wealthy, very famous people. That doesn't impress me. It's how good of a human they are.
Of course.
When you know you're doing something that appeals to people, and you know how lucky you are to be making money at doing something other people love, that's a joy. You're bringing a gift to the world. And when you appreciate that and are kind about it in return, that to me is what makes just a good artist versus a jerk. And I've met artists who were jerks. You know, they were thought very highly of themselves. And in some cases they were right. They have a tremendous talent, but they don't appreciate the gift that it is that they only have the money that they have and the notoriety that they have is because the fans like them.
I agree. Well said. Well said, you know. Yeah, I just really quickly, sorry, Hart, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not in the States, but here in Canada, there's this, I think it's German, it's this brand called Keurig. They make these machine. You know what that is, right, Jared?
They're everywhere. Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
It's sitting in my kitchen right now.
Okay. Yeah, I do not know what I meant by capsule coffee. Is that not what it's called? They're in capsules. They you take a capsule and it's filled with coffee. You stick it in the machine.
Yeah, I think they call them cups. But he may be referring to you can take supplements of coffee. You can take coffee.
Oh, maybe that's what he's talking about.
Like a powdered form. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. David says, yeah, coffee is the morning nectar of the heavens.
It is. I agree.
Dwayne's a pain. What's up, Dwayne? I haven't had caffeine in 15 years. Okay. Why would you cut out caffeine like it was like cocaine or something? Like, wow. Like, was it really hurting you or something? I'm curious about why you completely cut it out in 15 years. You mean like out of coffee or like in all forms? Like even sodas and stuff like that? That's interesting. I want to know, man. Let me know. Yeah, Rich says, I never drink coffee, but I admit I drank an energy drink when I was on Rubén's show as a guest to keep my energy up. See, I don't know if that's like a sly dig at me or something.
No, it's because you're so high. I know exactly what Rich is saying. You're so high energy. You are. And you come across as so... you have such a great charisma about you and such a great energy about you that if we aren't at your level, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your ass, I'm just being totally serious. No, as a guest, you don't want to be lower than your level because when you're boring or you're not at your level, then it makes a boring show. And, you know, I've got all these people sitting here wanting to, you know, that are lovely enough to listen to what I'm saying and probably boring the crap out of them. And if I'm not at least at your energy level or sitting there being quiet, then
I got
horrible.
You. Yeah, I got you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry I missed you 6 minutes ago, Carl. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for participating as always, man. I really always appreciate your participation, and especially when you ask some good questions. That it helps provide us with more fodder for the chat mill. So thank you very much. Aloha to you too, man.
And thanks for the nice words.
Let's see. So what else we got here? I'm finally catching up, starting to get closer and closer to the most recent comments. So, Jared, I would love to pick your brain when it comes to vitamins, because vitamins are my choice.
You know, I won't talk too long about it because I don't want to bore everybody else. I take a split multivitamin. There's a multivitamin. It's a part of a package. There's a set in the morning and a set in the evening. And I don't believe you need any other supplements really other than that. The only other ones I would recommend would be turmeric, because as you get older, you want to keep your inflammation down. And that's one of the proven drugs that actually keeps your inflammation under control with no side effects. And so it's terrific. Yeah. In fact, I just was talking to a couple of other nutritional physicians who specialize in that. And we were talking about turmeric.
There you go. And Marcus wants to know, how many steps a day? Do you count? Or you just go for it?
I have my watch, and so I try to make sure I get, because I sit in front of a computer and type all day, unless I'm in court. So I try to get 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Okay. If it's a active rest day, then I'll try to get 15,000.
Okay, and off the top of your head, 8 to 10,000 steps. Do you know how many miles that is, or?
I don't know miles. It takes me 10 minutes to do 1,000 steps approximately.
Oh, okay. Okay, so 10 minutes for everything. Okay, yeah, that's a good walk if you're doing it every day for sure. You know.
Well, yeah, I 8 to 10 on most days, and then on, like I said, active days, just 15.
Okay, well, yeah, that's perfect. Yes, Hart, we know you have horror commission stories. we are still hopeful that you may come back on as a guest once more, and just to regale us with those tales of horror. I would love it. And you can do it without having to name the names, just because the stories sound like they would be really good.
No, I think you should name the names. I think when you have horror commission stories where people have ripped people off, and truthfully, what's the one? I was around when what was it? I hate to say it was I can't remember who it was, so I'm going to say the name of it. Remember that Doctor Strange, that Patience is a Viru?
Oh yeah.
Was that Michael?
Jerry got screwed with that one. Yeah.
Oh my God, horrible.
Yeah,
and the artist was really unkind to him, and he really. And there's been some artists who have stolen, literally taken people's money and never given them their commissions. And so I do think you need to out people like that, because you want to warn people away from crooks. And I think, frankly, there's some dealers out there that probably, and somebody actually cited to one of Michael Golden. That's who I thought it was, but I didn't want to say his name just in case I was wrong. But he was very unkind when he screwed that commission up, and he did it as a big FU to the guy.
Yeah,
and that was completely inappropriate. And he rightfully caught a lot of flack for it. Again, these people are who they are because the fans have made them who they are. Yeah. This guy was paying good money. It's such a compliment. Think about it, Rubén. As a dealer, when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, look, I value you enough and your expertise enough. Can you help me with something?" There's no greater compliment a person can pay to you than to seek your advice about something. And so when people come to me or seek my services or whatever it is, I take that very seriously. It's an honor. And so when I go to get a commission, if somebody just, that's stealing. It's disrespectful. It's spitting in the face of the people who are giving you a career. I think that's terrible.
Yeah.
So I do believe you call them out. Warn everybody else.
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, that's an entire episode all on its own.
I know.
But unfortunately, and you've seen it yourself, Jared, the vast majority of commissioners, right? Guys who are primarily commission collectors rather than published art guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you've been around long enough to know that most of what you hear online is these guys get screwed. They jump online to complain about it because they want to be heard.
Yeah.
But they will preface it by saying, "Well, I'm not going to name names, but," and then they tell the story, and it's like, well, I'm like you, Jared. I'm like, well, how are you? I know you're trying to get this off your chest, but at the same time, you're not going to help anybody. You're going to hurt other people by not mentioning it, right? Because other people are going to continue to get screwed by the same guy. Whatever happened to you will happen again. I agree with you. I'm on your side, but even the commissioner, listen, when the commissioners themselves refuse to share the name, there's a problem like that. And
I want to say one thing in defense of the artist. Sometimes people overreact, and they will post something, and the artist was trying to make it right or trying to fix it.
Right.
Hey, look, I was in the hospital. I was sick. Yeah. My wife was sick. I remember that happening a couple times. And the guy was legitimately had a sick wife, and he just got behind in his commission schedule. Look, those are absolutely acceptable excuses, and you have to have some compassion and understanding. So I do think that there needs to be the story. People want to vent and just say kind of what happened without telling the important details of it. But, I've had people contact me, frankly, professionally, to say, "Jared, can you help me with this? Because this guy took $5,000 to $10,000 of my money and won't even respond to my emails anymore."
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that too. Yeah. Look, there's, like I said, that's a whole other show. You can spend hours talking about that whole topic,
Yeah.
David, so thank you for clarifying what you were saying before. So you're asking, so if a collector has a piece and you're interested in buying it, okay, so he just has a piece. Clearly, it sounds to me like it's not listed for sale. He just has a piece. You think, wow, I'd like to have that. You don't want to insult him with a price offer because you could be too low. Is it okay to ask what would he sell for? See, I'm just telling you what I think, David. In my opinion, I don't like that. As a seller, when I'm the seller, I don't like that because it's not for sale, right? It's not for sale. So the onus is on you to, guess what? Do your homework. And then when you do your homework and you do your best to try to find the best possible comps, right? The comparable sales, get some sort of an idea, and then just make your offer. That's better. That's better. Yeah, do your homework. Because me as a seller, guess what? It's not an exact science, but the reason, like, I haven't lost money very often over the 20 whatever years I've been in the hobby, it's because I did my homework. I always spent, like we've talked about this on the show many times. How many of us have said, "Oh yeah, when we watch auctions, you watch auctions, for example, a Heritage, and we're tracking 250 auctions or whatever." I'm doing that not because there's a chance I'm going to bid on all those auctions. It's because that's all the type of art combined that I'm interested in. I just like that art, and I'm curious to know what it will sell for. Yeah. I just want to be informed of value. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we live in a world now where you can get that, you have access to that information much more easily than you could before. And Heritage is a great resource. So I agree with everything that you just said. Yeah. And I would add that, a lot of people now, especially me, I will go to Heritage and say, A, if that piece is sold before and kind of get a feeling for it, and B, what other pieces have sold by an artist that are similar, either from the same book, same covers, same period of time, on and on and on, to kind of get a feeling for what it is. So I think you can do your research and make a decent offer without having to say, what do you want for this? I think that's a weak way to enter into a negotiation. Right. Especially if it's a piece you really like.
Well said. Yeah, thanks, Jared. Exactly. So hopefully, David, do it. Obviously, you have to do whatever you think is right in the end. I can only tell you what I think, and Jared's telling you what he feels. So, do whatever you feel is right. What can I say? Listen, the worst case that's gonna happen is if you do it your way, the way that you were kind of inferring in your question. The worst that happens is, I don't know, some guy gets offended and pissed off and tells you that he's pissed off, and that's it. Well, it's not the end of the world, I guess, but hopefully if that does happen, then you would hopefully learn your lesson and don't keep doing that. That's what I would say, Yeah. And you were right earlier, Jared, those guys were talking about the coffee and the caffeine pills or whatever. Yeah. Whatever. Caffeine pills. So
Rubén, do you like a lot? Like, do you study the history of? And the reason I'm asking is I was watching your interview with Dino a little while ago, and he's so knowledgeable not only about the history of the comics but also about the stylistic elements of the pieces that he's buying, and it's just truly wonderful to listen to him. Are you that same way? Do you look at does it matter to you too much who the inker was and the deep pencils and stuff like this? Are all those technical points important to you as a collector?
Yeah. I've said it many times. For me, comics growing up, while of course I read my comics, I was way more about the artwork than I was about the stories. Always. For me, it was the art form. I was just enthralled with the art of telling stories with pictures. Mm-hmm. And so I started drawing from an early age. I got into arts in college after high school. That's when it came to an end, though, because that's when I realized, I like it, but I don't like it enough to want to get to the point to learn enough. It would take too long for me to ever become a pro illustrator or whatever. I don't have that patience. I want to be good now, and I'm not willing to put the work into it, So I recognized my failings and said, okay, this is just a hobby, so forget it, But yeah, it's always been very, very important to me. For me, it's all about the art. Like I said, I enjoy a good story, but I really just love the art. So yeah,
I cannot draw at all. So for me, it's just somebody can do something that I literally will never ever be able to do in any way. And plus I love the characters. So originally it wasn't as much about the artistic merits of the piece as it was about getting a really nice example of a character from a storyline that I really liked, or just a character that I really liked by an artist I really liked. Now I'm a little bit more discriminating. So I think that is one of the lovely things about our hobby too.
Sure. Would you say you've become more discriminating partially at least as a result of just getting older and being in the hobby longer and not knowing when you may come to an end, your time in the hobby as an active collector? Would that have something to do with it?
I'm putting pieces on Heritage now, not because I'm coming to an end, but because I think that I've never really sold any pieces in all the years I've been collecting. And so I really wanted to, frankly, the market's gone up so much that, I can buy other pieces with my art and start reinvesting back into my own collection. But the truth is that art has become so expensive. When I first started collecting back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, art, you could go out and buy a really decent cover for $1,000 to $1,000 to $5,000 was a lot of money.
Oh,
to pay for
big time. Yeah.
Big time, and so, you could get burned pages, Kirby covers, all this stuff I paid $1,000 for a couple of my bowling covers, just nothing. And so maybe $1,500, something like that. And I made enough money that was a comfortable amount of money for discretionary spending. But now those same pages are 20, 30, 40,000 bucks. And, that is a significant chunk of money. And so when I make an investment like that, I want it to be a piece that is really representative of something that I really need to have it. Even $10,000 now is, and so that's always been my kind of, I've tried to adjust my priorities and manage my expectations. I was just talking about that. Manage my expectations that I go on, because I can't afford $100,000 and $200,000 and $300,000 covers. It's just crazy. And so some of these figures I see, I have to constantly readjust my thinking to today's prices because they're going so fast.
Right.
Because 5 years ago to 10 years ago, this wasn't even this was a different universe of collecting.
Yeah. And what about how do you? Well, I'll get to that too in a second. I just wanted to say quickly, Dwayne Zepane ended up answering that he got off caffeine for 15 years because he used to be a coke head, drank several a day, and energy drinks. Oh my God. And you have an occasional non-caffeinated soda, and you sleep much better. Perfect, exactly. No wonder you weren't sleeping.
Well, and to be fair, it's the sugar that's more of the problem.
And the sugar is a bit,
The sugar, that's the big thing.
That's you think about how much sugar drinking that much. Oh my God, the sugar on a daily basis. Yeah. Oh, killer. Yeah, and by the way, Dwayne Zepane, I used to know a guy back when I was a teenager, and I guess at the time he was probably in his, late 20s, early 30s, and he was like you. He was a Pepsi guy, but probably drank, I think it was like a 6-pack a day of the bottles, the regular size bottles. And look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if this was exactly why it happened, but he became diabetic one day, and I'm assuming that had certainly had to be a big contributing factor to it, so.
I'm sure it is. You become insulin resistant. Yeah. And that's a huge problem. And then you become a diabetic. And that's one of the reasons why I really stay away from sugar. My dad was a diabetic.
Oh,
he was terrible. And so I'm very sensitive to it. And he ate sugar like it was going out of style.
Right.
And so he couldn't. Yeah, it was a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that.
Totally get it. So Karen wants you to know that, Jared, you're making the show great too. I don't know what you mean by two. Two means that somebody must have said that I made the show great, and now you're just wanting to give him credit. I didn't hear anybody say that I made the show great. and by the way, I'm always on record here saying, I don't give a shit about me. I just wanted to do something for all of us. I've always said it's the people who say yes to me to come and hang in the studio, together with all of you who come in live and participate. You don't just come in and you sit here and watch like a captive audience. That's what makes these Sunday nights so fun, for me at least. I got to speak for myself. I said it all the time. I always say it. It's you guys. I'm just the guy running the show, basically, because it's my channel, but I'm giving the platform for it to happen. So yeah, it's absolutely Jared and you, Karen, and everybody else coming in tonight and participating. You guys are the stars. You guys make the show. so kick-ass fun and awesome. So there you go. So
well, you keep the conversation flowing for sure, Rubén. So you don't sell yourself too short. So I think that's good.
I guess it's all that extra energy everybody keeps talking about.
It's good. Well, you've obviously had a lot of caffeine pills and some energy drinks, like your sure cup or two. It's good.
I have water, just basically.
That's what's in here. Yeah, I got
basic
water.
bottled water. No caffeine. But yeah, and Rick wanted to let you know that
curcumin.
Is it curcumin? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's an anti-inflammatory. That's what I was talking about before.
Okay. David wants to know if he can reach out to you through your calf gallery actually about vitamins, because he's big into.
Oh yeah, I love it. Please do. I hope everybody, anytime you got a question, I'd love to meet more people and help whatever I can. Yeah, please do.
Excellent.
Oh, he's using CoQ10 and magnesium. Yeah.
That's very, very nice of you. Thank you, Jared. Yeah, that's
of course.
Great. There you go, David. And Rich, you're on the verge of taking Geritol, the supplement. I used to watch the Lawrence Welk show when I was a kid. I don't know why.
Yeah.
My parents. It would just that's it in front of the show. It's starting.
Well, we only had 3 channels back then.
That's true. That's true.
It was that, Yeehaw, or the news.
Yeah.
Seriously, I remember it. Yeah.
But did you also watch the Lawrence Welk show?
Oh my God! And like I just said, it was either Lawrence Welk, Yeehaw, or the news.
Yeah.
It was the lesser of 3 evils there. I mean, they were all horrible, but yeah.
Wow. Well, that's what I'm saying. But it could have been Hee Haw.
Well, today, if it was today, I probably would have watched Hee Haw because Roy Clark was such a phenomenal guitarist. I didn't realize that until later. But yeah, Lawrence Welk had his own kind of. If you go back and watch clips on YouTube, it's so incredibly horrible that it's worth it just to watch it with the powder blue tuxes in their.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's such a different world. It's a different world. That show would never survive today. Not even not even for 1 episode. Crazy.
Truly a product of its time, wasn't it?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, so let me see what else here. We got the once waited 6 years for a commission and had to threaten legal action to get my payment back. That's crazy. What else we go? Go a bit above. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, guys, but there's obviously since I'm coming in late to the comments. If I don't understand them, I'm going to skip over them just because we don't really have time at this point. And we're going to wrap it up soon. Alberto says, when someone asks for a price, I always say $1 million. Do you do that? I'm curious. Do you actually do that, or are you being funny? Because it would be cool if you did that. I would hope people would do stuff like that and kind of like hope that they get the point, like that it's, hey, you tell me, not me telling you kind of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell people when they say that to me. I say, I hadn't contemplated selling this piece, but you can make an offer, but I'm letting you know it needs to be an offer. If you really want to have a chance of getting it, it'd have to be an offer that's a multiple of its real value. And it's something that I can't refuse. I said, that's the only way I'm probably going to let it go. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying it to be a jerk or try to get more money out of you. I'm saying it because I hadn't thought about selling the piece. If I did, it would be listed for sale. So this is what it's going to take to get me to sell it. Unfortunately, nobody's taken me up on that yet. I wish they would.
It makes sense, though, for sure. And number one moral offense. So as a movie prop collector as well, it's very hard to figure a value. Okay, fair enough. I'll do research like crazy. That's good. And figure a value. Okay, good. Then make my offers when asking. Many times I offered much higher than worth. But do you mean on purpose? I'm assuming on purpose, since you said you did all that research, right? So I'm assuming on purpose to try to, you try to impress them to try to close the deal quickly, and then you'll drop a big offer on them. I think that's what you mean. But if you meant accidentally, then, and even if you don't, I'll say that for those people who are scared to make offers because they're scared of, and yes, I know that is one of the big reasons they're scared to make offers, is because they're scared that, they may offer you too much when you would have taken less. But you know what? Like, that's the name of the game. That's just how the game's played. It's just like, don't go crazy. If you do your research, you won't necessarily be most likely paying way more than you have to. You know what I mean? you'll probably be within market value, fair market value, I would say. So, you know,
and like I said, one of the things is that every collector thinks their pieces are worth more probably than they really are. So, I mean, if you're a dealer, then you really know the true value for pieces, I think, better. But for me, I probably think my pieces are worth more than I could really get. I mean, I think I'm somewhat realistic, but I don't know. You know, I'm just thinking that it is worth X number of dollars, and the guy may think it's worth X minus number of dollars. And that's fine.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And David says that thank you to both of us. This is what makes the show so great. Yeah, exactly. It's about talking and by talking and sharing our own, each of our knowledge that we've accrued. I mean, what can be better? It helps. It helps people. That's what it's all about. For me, I want to help. If I can help other collectors in any other way, of course. I'm not going to be here forever, right, Jared? You're not going to be here forever. New generations will have to come in, and better they be armed with as much knowledge as possible, so they don't make the mistakes.
Absolutely. And look at how much better the art is now than when we first started collecting. I mean, the artists who are in this hobby. I mean, obviously there's some exceptions that Neil Adams, Gil Kane. I mean, some of these there's people who are there who are truly, truly wonderfully talented. But I remember, and I saw a show that you talked about this. I was at Comic-Con when John Buscema was one of the last Comic-Cons he went to, and he said how much he hated drawing superheroes and he could not understand them. He never liked them. He understood Thor, he understood Conan really well, and he understood Tarzan, but he hated drawing characters in costumes. He just couldn't. And all these guys were basically failed artists. This was what they could do. They compared it to drawing coloring books. That's what they thought they were doing. These were all for kids. You know, we grew up with it and it became out. We're the ones who made this what it is today. And they adapted it into television and adapted it into movies, and it became this gigantic thing that none of them saw coming. None of them saw it. Yeah. Stan Lee, maybe. Stan and I had a bunch of conversations, and Stan had such a vision that, and he was such a marketer, that he really probably did see some of this coming, truthfully, because he believed in it. He had such self-confidence. But the artists themselves, and that's why they got taken advantage of so badly. When they were giving up their rights to the art, it's because they were getting paid enough that they thought this is worth it. They never saw the value. And DC and Marvel both destroyed their own artwork, gave it away. They didn't see the value of it either.
Yeah.
So when people complain that DC and Marvel were unfair to the artists, they were, undoubtedly. And Neil Adams was a huge champion to get those artist rights back. But no one really, to be fair to DC and Marvel, no one really thought after they were printed in a comic book, the art had any value at all.
Yeah.
And there was a special on just recently not recently, it's been actually a few years now, about Dungeons and Dragons, how these guys who created all the artwork for Dungeons and Dragons, they found out later that a lot of the artwork was being thrown away. That they had no idea it was any, they had no idea what the value was of the stuff, because it was just to publish a book.
Yeah, at the time, that D&D stuff, honestly, it didn't have value. You know what I mean? So, right, no monetary value, anyways. You know?
Nothing.
So,
Dave Trampier, all these guys, they were just sitting there, and they were their friends who could draw, and so they would put stuff together, and they just had a level of talent. Like you know, if you have a definitive artistic ability that far exceeds anything I could ever do, and if you were working for. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, have me work with it, they probably would have come to you and say, "Hey, can you figure out what this character would look like, and put it in a book for us?" You know, and so that's what a lot of these guys did, and that art is very expensive now. You know, and so I don't blame DC and Marvel as much as a lot of people do, because I see the realities of it from everybody's perspective. They just never saw any value to this. John Buscema was doing recreations; he never knew his artwork was going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Even 20 years ago, when I saw him right before he died, he didn't really understand. I mean, the value of the artwork was worth something then, and people were collecting it. But even they didn't know that it was where it is today. Nobody did.
No,
every artist will hold on to his work forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, even we, I really believe none of us who started in the 90s in this hobby, I really believe none of us truly ever foresaw, at least in our lifetimes, that the prices we see today would ever hit what they've hit in our lifetimes.
I was at I was at Comic-Con when Heritage was auctioning off the first cover with Joker that Jerry Robinson had done with Batman, Robin.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
very first one. That was the first. I think that was the first cover ever to break $100,000.
Yeah.
Ever, and that one deserved to break $100,000.
Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, and then you look at these outliers like that this Black Spider-Man page that sold for $3 million, and you're going, no one understands that result, but whatever. But no, like I was saying before, when I first started collecting this stuff, they were fun stuff. I'm a superhero fan. I never thought it'd be worth the value it has today. Not even in nothing, nowhere.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, people think that we're, people think sometimes that I'm this savvy collector. No, I just collected stuff that I like, and it just so happened other people liked it too in a way that made it go in value crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's it. Exactly. So you've done it before, where you've told the guy that if he didn't have a real price in mind, and since the piece is not for sale, I'll take $1 million, and he can make a real counter. Yeah, perfect. Good. I'm glad you've said that. Exactly. Good.
Yeah, I think that's funny.
It is funny. I think with inflation, you have to go Dr. Evil style and ask for $1 billion. Yeah. Especially in this, the inflation in our market, it's something I really want. I know in order to get it, it has to be very good so I don't lose it. Yeah, the offer, you mean, is what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Yep. No, so at this point, it is a single piece of my collection I wouldn't sell for $1 million. Yes. Well, I think a lot of us would. But
I tell you what, you can buy most of my collection for $1 million. So there you go.
You'll say that again?
I said you could probably buy most of my collection for $1 million.
Oh, most of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Comic Art Boston. First of all, welcome back. Welcome back. So tough call. One has to have at least a rough idea of fair market value, as I say, before making it up for. Well, right, but that's what we're Jared and I both sort of stress the importance of doing your research. Like you got to put some time into it. It's not something that happens by osmosis. Like it's not like zippity doo da, zippity day, zing. Oh, I know all the prices of comic art that ever historically and currently. Like it's not magic. Like it takes work. It takes time. It does, And
it also, to be fair, think on the other side of it, not just from the offer standpoint to the person you're making the offer to, but from your own standpoint. You don't want to go in and offer $30,000 on a piece that's worth $500. I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing the research. And the vice versa, if you offer $500 on a $30,000 piece, you're probably going to piss the guy off. So you really want to protect yourself, do your research, because you want to be a smart collector. You want to be a smart consumer. And if you're out there just willy-nilly this is not the hobby to do that. Especially because there's fakes out there too, and you can get really burned.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought anything that was a fake?
No. Oh no, hell no. Shit, I would be. Oh, I would. I don't know what I wouldn't handle. I wouldn't be able to handle the knowledge that I could be fooled. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or whatever. Like, no, I have spent my entire time in the hobby pointing out fakes when people put things in their galleries. Like, oh, look at this, and I see them. I see them like all excited, and people are commenting or whatever, and I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, that has got to be the fakest, the worst possible fake. Like, how do you not see that? Yeah. But it's fooling a bunch of them, and it's like, come on, man. And I remember one time somebody posted a Jim Lee sketch, and I could see it was not authentic. It was obviously a copy. Somebody tried to copy, and everybody was congratulating this person. Oh, amazing, and I don't like to be the bearer of the bad news, because I got to tell you, Jared, over the years, when I feel like maybe on one hand, it's not my business because maybe I don't know that person. And right. But on the other hand, I feel like, well, it shouldn't have to be about whether I know you or not. I'm not really doing it so much for you as I'm doing it for the hobby. Like the hobby should know that's a fake. So ergo, you should know it's a fake. And even though I'm the one who's going to be the messenger, I just feel like that's what's important, is you should know. And shockingly, people tell me off, and people have told me off, and yeah, what do you know? How do you know? And you know nothing. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm trying to help you, but okay, like, so it's tough. It's tough, but I still do it. I will always call it out if I see it.
Good. I think you should. You know, Michael Browning, who leads kind of the Facebook group on about collecting artwork and stuff like this, he's pointed out and he's contacted eBay a few times about people posting scammers and things like this. I think that's a great service. I've only been hit one time. This was very early on. I bought a Calvin and Hobbes sketch before I understood that Bill Watterson never did anything like that. And so that's the only time I've ever been burned. And that one still sticks with me a little bit because I'm such a gigantic, overwhelming fan of Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. So he was saying something I'd love to have. That probably is the top of my list. That a Calvin and Hobbes original, I would love to have something like that. But that was upsetting to me because I had the piece hanging up in my office because I was so happy with it. And then to figure out it was fake was sad. But it is what it is.
Well, at least, I mean, was it for a big time price or?
No, it was just a few $100, but still, I mean, a few $100 still sucks. Like,
no, it still hurts. Yeah, it's still.
If I had burned it, I would at least enjoy the heat. So, but I still have it. I keep it as a reminder to myself.
Perfect. That's what I would have done too. Yeah.
And that's why I think being an informed consumer, I think what you do is so important. Is that it is this? It's so easy to fake something in our hobby. It just is because there's so much stuff we don't know what happened to it.
Yeah. Well, get this though, Jared. So this one time, with the example I said about the Jim Lee sketch. So I thought, okay, rather than just reach out, I'll reach out. Okay, now maybe you don't believe me because you don't know me or whatever. Okay, fine. I went to the extra step of taking the scan. Because I found the original Jim Lee drawing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I put the original next to the fake, and I posted them in my CAF gallery. Okay, and I proceeded in the description to explain what to look for. How can you tell? So how did I see that this was obviously a fake? And I went and I explained it. And can you believe it? I still had somebody post a comment to me saying, "Oh no, that just could have been whatever." Like basically still trying to fight me on it. Like I don't get it. Like I'm helping you, and it's obvious to me. It may not be obvious to you, but that's why I did this detailed description telling you how to look, what to look for. I don't know. I'm still getting backlash as if, again, I'm the messenger, so I have to get shot. Like I don't get that. You
did your good deed, and I think you just have to accept that. Some people aren't going to respect the fact that they got burned and don't want to accept that fact. But a lot of stuff. So I've been offered many, because I'm such a big Batman fan. I've been offered many pieces from Bob Kane, and I turned every one of them down. And I said, unless you have a picture of him drawing it, I'm not going to, or you have some real problem. And I was just reading Comic Art Boston's talking about provenance here. And it's on those pieces, if I don't have provenance, especially for Bob Kane, I'm never going to buy anything. And I've seen so many different pieces that he signed. They're clearly not his artwork, not even close. He signed Dick Sprang stuff. I mean, it's clearly Dick Sprang style, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So no.
Yeah. You generally don't touch those things unless you're aware of the history of it all, and you're okay with it. Then then it's okay, right? But otherwise, you if you're just wanting a Bob Kane original, you just stay away. Just live without your Bob Kane original.
I think so. For the most part, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Rich says something really interesting too, because this has happened to me too. And that's what's worse, when it's a long-time collector wants to make a trade and says, okay, well, this is what my piece is worth, but how much did you pay for yours? As if the cost is suddenly what you have to compare to. Like, what? Oh, some people they're so, oh man, crazy. Oh yeah, and Mike says that he saw that D&D documentary, great doc. Painful to hear the art horror stories. Is that available anywhere? Do you think that can be easily watched, Jared? Or
it's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, okay. Do you know what it's called?
It's actually quite a good documentary. They really interviewed interviewed a lot of the guys who were still living and some of the relatives of people who have passed away. And as Innocent Art will tell you, it was a really wonderfully done documentary. Really, because I grew up in the 70s and Dungeons and Dragons was such a vital part of the creation of my imagination. Comic books, reading comic books, playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. You know, back then that was such a wonderful exercise of the imagination and problem solving and team building. And people really don't understand how much of it, for me, it was such an influence on me. I just absolutely adore it. I haven't played in decades, but I just absolutely adore it for what it gave me in my life.
Yeah. And do you remember the actual name, the title of the doc?
I do not.
No.
No,
the year of it?
I think it's about 5 or 6 years old now, but it was still on there, and I just watched it about maybe 5 or 6 months ago, and it was. If you research Dungeons and Dragons, I'm sure it'll pop up in 5 seconds. I can probably, when we get off, I can email you. I can figure it out.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries. Good. Yeah, Innocent maybe know it.
Yeah, Mike, if you happen to know the title offhand, whatever, just pop it in the chat if you can, please. Yeah, see, Rich says Neil used to yell at artists that they're valuing their art. It's true. Yeah, but even I did that, Rich. Well, I didn't do it with all the artists, but with Tom Grummett. Okay. As you know, I love my Grummett. I collect my Grummett art, and part of the reason I decided to start focusing on collecting his art in 2016 was not only a combination that I just enjoy it, but it was very cheap. Rich, what's that, Jared?
Innocent Art just says, "I have the holder." That's exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. But I used to literally be there at the con at Tom's table, and I would be trying to convince him to please let me represent you, Tom. You're underselling your work, and it's like it went in one ear out the other. And I was like, I would literally make examples. I would grab stuff from his table and I'd say, look, Tom, like this piece right here, you currently have $65 on it. Okay. Now you're going to let anybody at this convention grab it for $65. Now that means it's fair game for me to buy it as anybody else. Now, at the time I was a full-time dealer, right? And I said, now I'm always looking for art that I can resell. Now I love your art. I'd like to collect some pieces from your art, but I also love to sell art that I love, right? Because I want to introduce other people to the art that I love. So if I take this piece for $65 from you, I can actually probably get about $200 for it. Okay. And I go, look at this piece. This piece you're asking $150. I can take it right now, go home on my website, and the next update I do, I'll put it for $400. Not because I'm ripping anybody off and jacking up the price, but because your price is way too low and I'm just putting it at market value and it's going to sell, right? And I said, I'd be like, Tom, if you give me the commission, I'm going to make a lot less money if we work together, but I want to do it just so you stop underselling your work. It doesn't benefit me, right? It's going to hurt me as a collector. It's going to hurt me. And he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't listen. And for many,
it goes back to what I was saying originally. This guy was probably paid $10 a page. So he figures, I've gotten paid. I got the artwork back. I'm going to make an extra $65. I'm getting $75 per page. It's worth $10.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what these guys thinking about this all the time. So I have friends of mine who are, Tony Daniel's a friend of mine. And so Tony's very savvy about, he knows his market and he knows how to sell his pieces. And he is one of the very few artists I have met who really understands the business of being an artist as well. And a lot of people don't, because they are so creative that the fundamentals of business don't really register as well with them. They don't want to deal with it. That's just their creative side versus their business side. And so it doesn't surprise me, because I've run into other artists like that. And then you have the opposite, where they think their art's worth a lot more than it really is.
Good points. Yeah.
So it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Rich, you bought a few fakes, and I know that from a long-time dealer. Showed it to the artist to confirm is it a fake. Says yes, returned it to the dealer. He'll begrudgingly refunded you. I know that's what hurts more than anything in that kind of a scenario. When you feel like the dealer themselves make it look like they're doing you a favor by taking the art back. You know what I mean? Like even though you kind of got screwed by buying it in the first place. Like it's not wanting to take responsibility is by sellers. That's one of the things, a pet peeve for me. You know, in the hobby. So, Comic Art Boston, you certainly learned that provenance is important for Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, all strip art and those expensive strips, and especially if it's like just sketches of those famous strips, you know, because those are the easier one to fake, if you will, and fool people, like Marcus was just saying too, and especially he made the point that some artists towards the end of their lives, you know, as they get older, they shake or whatever, right? Their abilities are not quite there anymore, and it looks not very good. It looks kind of like it's an amateur trying to make a copy of it, you know? Yeah. So I can see how it can be kind of tricky at times, you know? But you ultimately got a sketch, which was just a couple of inches square, and it cost the king's ransom. Yes, we know. That's what they go for, though, you know? Absolutely. That's absolutely. There will always be the naysayers. We just need to do it and move on. Yeah, well, of course, absolutely. Hey, naughty or nice, what's up, Dan? Probably the faker. It's a faker that is hating. Well, fakers are always going to hate, especially if they can't get away with ripping you off. Bob Kane is the real deal. Yeah. You are possibly dealing with a shame emotion, and it's common for people to not react good with that emotion. Oh, you mean when I told them that they have a fake? That kind of thing? Probably that's what you're talking about, right? That's He's saying, being burned, right? Probably. JC says that was a great documentary, and not even a D&D fan. Yeah, I was never a D&D guy myself, but I love documentaries, so I would love to see that, you know?
And you like artwork too, so it's a great...
Yeah. It'll fit for that alone, exactly. Yeah. And that's really why I want to see it, you know? Yeah. I was in the D&D club in high school, got serious shit for it. Back in those days, sure, because back in those days, you might get beat on, you know?
But now it's super cool. Yeah. So my stepdaughter comes in with all of her friends. It's super popular in high school. D&D is now the big thing, and everybody is, you know, it's super popular. And the movie was actually good. A lot of people hated it, but I loved it. I thought it was
great. Jeff, you're back. You guys have outlasted the taco man and my ability to devour any more tacos and street corn. Marcus, you'll sell fake art for $65. Okay. Brian Stillman is the director of Eye of the Beholder. Okay, so it is definitely Eye of the Beholder. Okay, he's a big Captain America collector. Done many trades with them. Okay, cool.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know.
Let me see. And we're almost to the end, guys, so we can say goodnight. Let me see. Thanks for making Tom G art out of my price range, you fanatic. No, listen, David, compared to everybody else in the hobby, even though it has gone up a lot over the last 5 years, it's still one of the cheapest. He's still one of the cheapest. So it's still affordable. It's just not ridiculously dirt cheap like it used to be. That's all. Let's see what else we got here. On the flip side, Neil would yell at me when I worked for him for spending too much money on art. Told me you were crazy. Yeah, well, that's one of the ironic things about him, you know.
Well, Neil's one of the guys who, you know, and I don't mean to disrespect Neil because I loved him, but he overvalued his art. He didn't. He thought, you know, man.
Yeah.
He was. Did you ever talk to? Did you ever meet? You met him, right?
Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, I a few times. My very, very first time actually soured me on. He was my favorite artist as a kid. Okay, he was my favorite artist, and I met him when I was 20 or 21, and he basically tried to humiliate me at a con in front of a lineup of people, and I never saw his art the same again. Like I still like it and admire it, but as a collector, the few pieces of his art that I bought, I ultimately sold off quickly because every time I would look at them, as nice as they were, it just all it did was it served to remind me of that horrible memory I have with him, of how he treated me personally, and so I you know, Yeah.
I've talked to him a few times because I bought a couple pieces from him, and he was a hoot. I mean, if you didn't know how to handle him, he could run right over you. I mean,
sure,
he would have. He was a very interesting, super smart guy. And if you knew how to talk to him, he was fine. But if you didn't, and you stepped out of line a little bit, he would tear your head off. I mean, it was no problem. Rich knows, and I'm not telling you anything Rich doesn't know. But I had the same experience with Bruce Timm. I loved the Batman animated series, and I met Bruce Timm years ago at the Warner Brothers store, and I was brought in for a special event because I knew the manager of the art gallery, and I got to meet him and Alex Ross, and they were both the same thing. And da-da-da. Anyway, so I come in, and Bruce is standing there, and she brings me over to Bruce to meet him, and he's talking to one of this really pretty Warner Brothers girl, and she goes, oh, this is Jared Simmons. He wanted to meet you, and he goes, hi, and turned right back to her and started talking to her again.
Oh, yeah.
So then I ran into him at SDCC, and it was for a professional thing. So I was representing somebody, and I had to work with him as well. And so I was talking to him, and I said, you probably don't remember this. But he goes, oh, yeah, I remember. He goes, I was chatting up that girl. I go, you were a dick. I literally said that to him, and he goes, I was. He totally admitted it. And so we talked about it for a couple of minutes, and then I ripped on his new interpretation of the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. He goes, yeah, that design just didn't work, and da-da-da-da. So he and I actually kind of made up because I'm a huge fan of his art. So I was the exact same thing as you. I was like, well, I'm going to sell everything I have because he was such a jerk to me. But he actually was okay the second time.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's at least he kind of made up for it. You know that. Yeah.
Well, Bruce is another one of those guys who's got he's curmudgeonly.
Sure. So, Jared, Hoarder's Hide Scott, he's asking. I'm going to throw this at you. If you're in his shoes, right? You go up to let's say whether it's in person or online, I guess doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You go to the dealer or the rep. Do you think they should know the entire contents of their stable? And what he means is, if you say, hey, do you have any Spectre or Jonah Hex art? Do you think they should be able to tell you? Or do you expect, like, it's normal if they say, let me check and let me get back to you or whatever?
No, I think it's because I think what they're checking is how much they have and what they have. And, like, for example, and I'm not calling Mike out, Mike Berkey. Mike is the nicest guy in the world. And if you call up Mike and say, hey, look, do you have this? He'd be like, yeah, I think I've got some pieces of that. Let me check and see what I've got. And I'll send you some scans. And so that to me is totally normal. If they don't have, and sometimes when they have it on their website, somebody may have claimed it and they don't know. And so they're going to check to make sure the pieces they think are for sale are still for sale. So I think that is normal. What do you, do you think I'm right?
I think it's okay if somebody says, let me check, because it could be for many reasons. It could be like, you know what? And I'll tell you, Scott, I don't have really much of an inventory to speak of anymore. But when I did as a full-time dealer, I admit I was so hardcore into it. I knew everything I had. Yes, I could have told you if I had some art from this character or that character. But at the same time, if you're just saying, oh, do you have a Ghost Rider art? Or like you say, the Spectre art. Listen, you don't know as a dealer, as a seller, you don't know that if the customer may be happy just, a page with that character in one panel. They may be happy if it looks good, right? You don't know that. And those types of examples are harder to remember, right?
That's a great example.
So I personally, speaking for myself, would remember if I have any covers, splashes, or really good action pages by those characters, featuring those characters. But I may not remember if I still had that page that I had once where just maybe in that one panel, so it's okay. I think it's okay, for them to get back to you, but hopefully they get back to you. And good night to you.
One of the best Ghost Rider splashes I've seen was in a Punisher book.
One of the best Ghost Rider splashes?
Yeah, one of the best I love this Ghost Rider page splash, and it was in the Punisher.
Okay.
So that's just another good example.
Yeah. Was that? Do you remember if that was during Mark Texeira's run on Punisher?
No, okay. It was a different artist, but it wasn't Mark. Mark's Ghost Rider is so great. There's a few guys who just really captured Ghost Rider beautifully.
Yeah.
I'm a big Ghost Rider fan, so I like that.
Okay. All right. So I didn't see you. Okay. So did Neil say? Mike say? Did Neil say if you have to ask? Well, he's definitely the type of guy who would have said something like that. So
he 100% would say that.
yeah, exactly. I would always eat breakfast or dinner with Neil at the con hotels. See him so much, and he always felt expensive at cons back then. You mean his prices? You mean when he was selling stuff for? Yeah. Maki Poo Poo. What did he do? Okay, I'll tell you just really quickly. So this was my first time going into the United States. I was asked at the last second by a local comic book wheeling and dealing friend of mine. He wanted to go try setting up at a New York con, and he asked me if I wanted to tag along, so I did. But it was last minute, so I only had $120 to take with me for spending money for the whole weekend. So the first thing I did was I knew Adams was going to be there. I went to go see him, and I saw that on his table he had those 3 different Tarzan portfolios that he used to advertise all the time since going back to the late 70s. And I used to love those. They were like paperback novel covers, Tarzan covers. And so I always used to dream when I see the ads, oh, those awesome portfolios, but as a comic collector with a tight budget, every dollar had to go into comics. So I couldn't afford, $20 portfolios or whatever they cost. And so anyways, he had them there and then. They were $20 a piece. And I was just kind of contemplating, should I, shouldn't I, should I buy them now all these years later? Do I really, And I'm like, and in my head, I decide, okay, if I'm going to spend the money on these, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to spend the money to frame them and have them all up on a wall. But if I do that, being that I'm buying them directly from Neil right here and right now, I want them to be at least autographed. So as long as he signs them for me, cool, I'll buy them. So I said, Neil, hey, if I buy all these 3, if I buy one of each of the portfolios, would you be okay just autographing each of the plates? So it would have been 12 autographs. But by the way, back in the day, Maki Poo Poo, back in the day when no comic artist was charging for autographs. So that wasn't even a thought in his head. Okay. And I don't even remember because the memory, it was so jolting. I don't remember what he said, how he said it exactly, but he basically said, in not the exact same words, but like he kind of laughed it off and said, like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that for $60 for a $60 sale. And all these guys in line, because I wasn't in line. Okay, there was a long line of people who just wanted autographs on their comics. And I just wanted to buy the merch on the table, so I didn't have to wait in line. So I was kind of like at the front of the line, if you will. And all these guys in line started laughing along with him, basically, because he tried to humiliate me or whatever, And it was kind of humiliating. It just felt so stupid. And like a sucker, I felt he made me feel, not only was it embarrassing, but he made me feel guilty about having asked. So I still, like a moron, still bought them anyways. I kind of laughed it off and I still bought them. Here's your $60, Neil. Give me the portfolios. I'll take them anyways. And they're still sitting here just a few feet from me collecting dust. Yeah, so that's what happened. Whatever. So that's it. There you go.
So Neil, Hart R asked me a question. He said, Jared, have you sold any art of an artist because you had a negative encounter or never clicked with them once you met them? Yes.
Okay, hold on.
I don't mind telling you, it was Alex Ross. I still have a couple of Alex Ross pieces, and I love him. But he was in San Diego, and I bought a couple of pieces, and they're not cheap. And he was such a jerk to me. Like I'm not a fanboy. I mean, like I said, celebrity does not impress me. I just, I think it's great. I think you have a talent. It's great. So I walked up to him. I said, hey, I had just bought the pieces. And, or no, I just bought one of them. I bought another one before, and I was telling him that I had bought a couple of pieces, and he goes, thanks. And just stood there. They said nothing. And I was like going, well, I just wanted to tell you I like the art. He goes, good. Like, would you give me these one word? And just being such an asshole to me. And I'm like going, well, okay. I didn't even know where to go with it. And he just made me feel like an idiot in front of a bunch of people where my friends, he was just being, he had his name tag turned around. He was walking around the con. Nobody recognized him. So there weren't a lot of people around him. And I just happened to catch him and say, hey, look, I just want to let you know what, I just bought this piece and I've got another one before and da-da-da-da. And he just, and not a nice, hey, look, I'm sorry, I've got to run to something. I'm going to a panel. He was just wandering around. And I get it. You know, he's didn't want to be mobbed. And I totally understood that too. So I was discreet and respectful of him. But I felt he treated me so shitty that it was he was very unkind. So
Yeah.
I had a really nice. He did Superman Strength, and I kept one of the covers, and I sold another of the covers. So I have a couple of those other pieces too, but I did sell that one because I did not. I was very unhappy with how he had talked to me.
There you go. I would have done the same. So I'm with you on that. David just wants you to know that he sent you a courtesy email, Jared, and hopes to talk.
Thank you very much. I'll respond to it as soon as we're done.
And no, Marcus, you should not send me a Neil Adams portfolio for Christmas. A, B, and C, exactly. They were A, B, and C, whatever. Then no, don't. You don't have to send me anything again for Christmas. You already did so last year. I appreciate it. Very nice of you. Don't send me anything, but especially not Neil Adams related crap. Whatever. Still like the art, but yeah, it's just not the same anymore ever since that happened. You know, that's just how it is. Still have those Tarzan portfolios. I know. I always wondered if he just kept printing them off or whatever, because they just never seem to ever end, you know? Spider got them signed for you. Okay. Great discussion tonight. Jared's collection is awesome. Love your Paulo Rivera pieces, says John.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you. Well, you know, a couple of them are going to be up for sale inheritance, so feel free to bid them up. They can be yours, a couple of them.
That's funny. He should have signed at least a couple of pieces. Well, no, if you're talking about my portfolio, I wouldn't have wanted that. For me, like I said, I'm going to put them all up. It has to be, you know, consistency. I want all 12 signed. I don't want, why would 2 of them be signed and not the rest? You know, I'd rather have them either not signed or all signed, right? That's just how, you know, for me, that's how it is. But yeah, human nature, after a while, you think you're a god. Yeah, and for some people, he always kind of did.
Comic-Con, that's why Comic-Con's weird, because these guys, and no offense, Neil always thought incredibly highly of himself, so he's not a good example. But some of these guys have never had any type of confidence or notoriety or fame. They sit in a room, they draw all day. That was their nerdy thing. And now people are loving what they do. They don't respond well to fame. Some of them are great. They appreciate it, and some of them just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, comic art Boston. I get it, right? Like some of them are the most wonderful persons. Jack Kirby was like that. Exactly. I get it. And yes, that you draw a distinction between an artist's work and his or her character. Yes, I get that, right? But here's an interesting thing, and that some people would probably, I'm assuming, agree with me, and others would be like, oh, I don't really get that. So you guys already know my story about Neil Adams, right? And how it affected my desire or lack thereof to own the artwork. On the other hand, I can use the example of Ethan Van Sciver, which a lot of you know. Some of you may not. I don't know. He's basically been run out of the industry because of his views, you know, political and otherwise. Bottom line is, I don't align with, you know, most of his views myself. However, I still like the best era of his art. I still like the period that I like, and I own some of it, and I really enjoy it, and I don't mind owning it. Why? You may be asking, well, why? Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is, from the best I can see, is that whatever his views are, he's still entitled to them. And they don't affect me personally. Whereas with Neil, it was a personal thing. He literally purposely tried to humiliate me to get some laughs from his other fan. You know what I mean? So that's to me, that's a big difference. You know, he was personally a prick to me. Ethan Van Sciver's, you know, never been a prick to me. So I think that's the difference. And that's why I don't mind owning some of Ethan's art. And I don't really want to own Neil's art. So that's my view. So
it's so funny that you said that, because I represented Ethan.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, I did. And I like Ethan. I don't agree with his politics in any way, shape, or form. But that's like saying I don't agree with your religion, right? That just happens to be his belief system. And even though it's not my belief system, in fact, it's pretty close to the opposite of my belief system, he's entitled to his opinions. And some of the stuff he got accused of, he actually did not do or say. But he led people to. He unfortunately, and I don't want to speak for him because it's not appropriate for me to do it, but he should have tried harder to make people know that he didn't think or feel that way. And so it leads people to think he did think or feel that way because he didn't try to fight harder. And so even I question whether or not he really felt when he said some very despicable things.
Right.
He has such a sense of humor that you don't know sometimes when he's joking, and he'll say these outlandish, crazy shit. I apologize if I'm not supposed to cuss.
No, you can cuss. It's okay.
Okay. So the stuff that's so outrageous, you cannot do that. You just again, that's the responsibility of fame. You cannot say things that alienate people in a way that's so, even as a joke. And he was saying some pretty malicious things. And at the same time, his art was phenomenal. He did this cover, I still own it, of Green Lantern and Sinestro, Green Lantern Rebirth, and I love it. Love it. In fact, hopefully we'll talk about it in the show and tell, because I like to tell the story. I won't do it today, but there's a story about that cover. But it's great. And he's truly a gifted and talented artist.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. And I appreciate you sharing that anecdote, Jared, because it tied in nicely, and kind of supports what I was trying to say about that whole thing. So and you guys hear all that he's going to be back. Jared's going to be back to do the show and tell, probably in about 6 weeks or so. And so that'll be fun. We get to chat about art and probably, no doubt, go off on tangents again like we did tonight. So
I'll try to keep it limited to art in the next one.
But look, we've kept him very, very long. I initially thought he was only going to give me a couple of hours. So Jared's been awesome. So we're going to close this out. Let me just quickly see, very, very quick, to see if there's anything I've missed. So who that jungle are? Let's see. VS is doing just fine on his own. He certainly is. That's for sure. Hey, Karen, you're still with us. Neil Adams signed a print for me in pencil at a con, and I asked him to go over it in pen. I guess he did it, though. It doesn't sound like it turned out badly for you. I guess it's different when one has a personal encounter. Absolutely. Well, for me, I can only speak for myself, right? Everybody's different. Neil would go the extra mile for the ladies. That does not surprise me. And honestly, I think most artists will go the extra mile for female fans, just for no other reason than, that they're still a lot more rare than male fans, so I would think so. Jim Colin, nice man for sure. You're here to help me heal, are you? I'm so wounded, Yes, we see the human side. Gene was absolute gentleman. That's why they called him Gentleman Gene, the Dean Colin. Yes. No one wanted to ink him, because of that crazy detail. Rich said it was the way to make a collective for sure. Okay. Yes. CJ, exactly. Treat me with respect. I'll treat you with respect. That's exactly. Carmack Boston, thanking you. Jared, and you're welcome as always, Carmack Boston. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming back when you had a chance. And thank you, Hart. Appreciate you as always as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dwayne DePayne, as always. Appreciate you. It was a fun chat, and I'm so happy that nobody complained we didn't show art. Oh my God! We really, come on, guys, tell me the truth. Do you really not miss this? Do you really think like you absolutely need to show art? We need to show art every time, every single week. Come on, this is fun. Let's just shoot the shit. This is fun. Thanks, Jared and Ruben. Great show. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Karen.
Greg Horn, always awesome and has amazing art. That's a name I haven't even. Geez, what happened to him? Is he even in the business? I haven't seen or heard of him in like a dozen years. He begrudgingly went over it in pen. Begrudgingly? Wow. Okay, that's Neil. That's Neil for you. So, CJ says thanks to you, of course, as well, Jared. We don't know where Stanley is, CJ. He's kind of disappeared the last couple of weeks. The next hour will be nothing but art. Well, it'll be a show to tell. I'm sure we'll be talking.
It will be, but not with me.
I was ready to leave after 5 minutes because of the lack of the art. And yet you're still here, Scott. Wow, man. Well, from now on, when it's show and tell, show up. When it's a hangout, if you want to see art, don't show up, because I intend to try to get back to doing it this way again. I need a break from having to make slides of the art all the time. And I just find it's fun and more chill and relaxed shooting the shit with everybody like this. And man. Thumbnail was so good, you didn't need to show the art. Yeah, man. That thumbnail was pretty killer, wasn't it? It's my favorite thumbnail that I've made so far. Thanks to the Adonis, Jared himself, in front of the beautiful piece of art. Yes, that was. I have to tap myself on the back for that. Thank you, David. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your morning and day, actually. I request the Symptoms writer to dedicate his script to eBay buyer. This isn't my signature, and he loved it. That's funny. Karen, at least he did. Yeah, at least he did. So Stanley usually shows up after hour 3. True, Rich. I forgot about that. I forgot, but it is after hour 3, so we gotta go. So this way is a great way to go. Thank you, CJ. I appreciate the support in that. You need art to fill all the holes in your soul. And humor always breaks the ice, and they appreciate it. Okay, yeah. Well, guys, thank you. And because I've almost forgotten. I'm sorry, Nick. Nick wasn't here. He's usually the guy the catalyst who reminds me. So let me just quickly remind everybody, please tune into Nikki B's show on Fridays, every Friday, this Friday and every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. It is a art show, as always. I would say art show / chat show. Usually affordable art, sometimes some higher end art, but it's always a fun time with everybody who shows up to chat. So please tune in and check that out. Sorry it took to the end of the show to do that, Nikki B, if you're ever watching this on Rewind, but at least I got it in there. And yeah, that's it. So next week, everybody, just want to show you real quick for those of you who are still here. Next week, my fellow Canadian buddy, Dwayne Murray. It will be a show and tell. And so this is going to be a kind of a special one. Because the show and tell will mostly be based around something I read recently, which I loved, and I just highly recommend it to everybody. And we're going to talk about this throughout the show and tell. But for those of you who are, very, very Marvel DC type centric, towards the end of the show, we'll have a few pieces of, that type of stuff and a couple of really killer pieces to show and share. So let's leave it there, everybody. Thank you again. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it. Good night to you. Good night to you, Hart. Appreciate it. And of course, thanks to Jared. Absolutely. And yes, exactly, Comic Art Boston. We better all go before Stanley does show up and starts asking questions. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. Good night, Karen. And getting the band back together. What band is that? But yes, please be back here. Oh, and next week, everybody, the show next week with Dwayne Murray here. Just to remind you, check out the bottom. It is 1 hour later than usual. So it's usually 8 Eastern. Next week had to be 9 p.m. Otherwise, he would have canceled. It was the only way to save the episode. So I figured, okay, we'll go 1 hour later. So please remember, it's 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. And if you don't think you're going to remember, hey, if you haven't done so, click the subscribe button and the notify me button. Or if it doesn't say notify, it's like a bell icon. Click that and you'll get notified automatically through by YouTube. Okay. And that's it. So yes, number one Marvel fan. Thank you to you as well. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Jared, hang in there just for a minute, will you?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So that's it, everybody. Appreciate you as always. We will see you next week, 9 o'clock, 1 hour later, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. Yeah. Catch you guys then.